Lincheng Pedestrian Street, March 2050. The city is bustling and full of life, unaware of the catastrophe that is approaching. The story takes us to the Yongfen Management Company, the front for a much shadier business. Inside, a threatening voice rings out. "Kid, do you know what it means to ask me for 5 million yuan? The tension is palpable in the room." The man who spoke calmly lights a cigarette. His weathered face reveals a life of dangerous dealing. It is Zhang, the boss of Daifeng and a well-known underground loan shark in Lincheng. His imposing posture and cold stare bode nothing good. In front of him, a young man named Chen Zio sits, visibly intimidated and surrounded by Zhang's henchmen. Despite his fear, he accepts that the loan interest will be high. Zhang, with a predator's smile, lays out his draconian terms: 4% daily interest, a payment of 7.5 million in half a year, and most importantly, collateral of equal value. Desperate, Chen Zio offers the deed to his house as collateral, showing a commercial housing contract. Zhang examines the contract with disdain. In his mind, he calculates that the house is old and worth no more than 3 or 4 million. He sees an easy opportunity to take advantage. With a crafty expression, Zhang rejects the offer, claiming the house isn't enough for a 5 million loan. He declares the deal can't be done, pressuring Chen Zio. Chen Zio, on the brink of despair, pleads, "No, brother Zhang, please help me. Even 4 million is fine." He claims his luck has improved and he'll be able to pay it all back. Zhang makes a final counteroffer, 3.5 million yuan. Meanwhile, he thinks to himself that he's hooked a young gambling addict, an easy fish to reel in. Chen Zio bursts with joy, accepting the offer without hesitation and promising a quick repayment. His relief seems genuine to those present. Zhang seals the deal. He must pay 4.5 million in 3 months or the house will be Zhang's. He orders him to draft the promissory note while the funds will be dispersed in 3 days. Chen Zio looks at the promissory note and agrees without issue, but adds a but. The atmosphere shifts. Chen Zio looks Zhang straight in the eyes and says, "I have one condition." Chen Zio's sudden confidence surprises Zhang, who responds with a curious, "Oh yeah." 10 minutes later, one of Zhang's henchmen sees Chen Zio off, kindly telling him to take care. The deal seems to have concluded smoothly. Immediately after, Chen Zio receives a notification on his phone. 3.5 million yuan has been credited to his account. A malicious smile spreads across Chen Zio's face. Idiot, he thinks. He knows the apocalypse will arrive in a month and no one will come to collect this debt. Now, with the money in hand, he can prepare so he won't die the same horrible way he did in his past life. Chen Zio recalls his previous life. A terrifying natural disaster struck the blue planet, causing a drastic change in the planet's ecosystem. Intense solar radiation hit Earth, raising the global average temperature to an unbearable 50 degrees Celsius. The world became a burning hell. Humanity entered a terrifying high-temperature apocalypse that lasted 30 days, an event that wiped out a large part of the population. During that time, horrific mutated creatures appeared, like this monstrous dog that mercilessly devours the remains of a human being. Back in his office, Zhang laughs out loud, believing he's made the deal of a lifetime. He mocks Chen Zio, considering him a mere gambling dog who accepted abusive interest just to get the money in his hands immediately. But while Zhang celebrates his supposed victory, his sharper henchman voices his doubts. It seems suspicious that Chen Zio accepted such an unfavorable deal so easily for a house that was worth more. Could there be some trick, he asks, introducing a note of caution that his boss is about to ignore. But Zhang, full of arrogance, dismisses his subordinate's concern. He says with contempt that he's seen countless gambling dogs willing to sell their wives and children for money. Then he orders his man to contact the casino to rig Chen Zio's game results, ensuring they'll not only take the house but everything he owns. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the city, the sun sets, painting the sky orange over the skyscraper. Unaware of Zhang's plans, Chen Zio checks his phone with an icy calm, the sunset light reflecting off his face. A smug smile forms on his lips. He thinks of Zhang's naivety, believing that a simple interest rate increase could scare him. Chen Zio remembers his past life, where he had to borrow from every loan shark in the city. This old trick is nothing to him. With a glacial gaze and eyes glowing a threatening red, Chen Zio declares in his mind, "Once the money is in my hands, don't even dream of getting it back." Images of the apocalypse return to his mind. The land dried up, vegetation withered, creatures mutated, and the social order completely collapsed. Resources became extremely scarce, and people resorted to any means without scruples to obtain a bit of survival supplies, unleashing violence. In that new world, possessing resources meant possessing supreme wealth, elevating some to the position of kings over the desperate masses. Even former billionaires or the most popular stars were reduced to begging and crawling for a sausage or a glass of water, condemned to a miserable death in the streets if they failed. Back in the present, Chen Zio's resolve strengthens. Now that I've been reborn, there's still time before the disaster descends, more than enough time to prepare, he thinks, as the shadows around him seem to fill with watchful eyes. With his plans in motion, Chen Zio enters what appears to be a luxury cafe or ice cream shop. His attention is caught by two women at the counter. The women excitedly talk about a limited edition ice cream, the Zhu Gao Assassin, commenting that it's a luxury item, even more expensive than famous brand ice cream. The mention of that particular ice cream triggers a painful memory in Chen Zio, and his expression hardens. He remembers his ex-girlfriend, Liu Wangqing. In his past life, he hesitated to buy that expensive ice cream for himself, but he bought it for her several times. Now the memory tastes bitter, thinking that giving her such an expensive ice cream was a waste like giving it to a dog. The pain of the memory turns into a comical rage. No, the more I think about it, the more my heart hurts. I'm going to enjoy some too, he decides with fierce determination. With a new resolve, Chen Zio approaches the counter, surprising the two women. Hello, could you give me 10 of each type of ice cream you have here? Thanks. The women are left open-mouthed. Seriously, 10 of each, they wonder, incredulous yet impressed by the audacity and flair of his order. The clerk is stunned as well. She recognizes the famous Zhu Gao assassin and thinks the handsome young man doesn't look like he has money. Skeptical, she asks, "Sir, are you serious?" To be sure, the clerk warns him, "Our shop only sells high-end ice creams. 10 of each category will cost more than 20,000 yuan. Are you sure?" Suddenly, a red-haired woman nearby cuts in with a mocking tone. "Wow, that guy. With that broke look, if he can pay, I'll kneel to him in public." Chen Zio turns to her, his gaze sharp and piercing. "Beautiful lady, are those words true?" he asks, accepting the challenge. The woman, furious at being confronted, snaps defensively. "What, you really want me to kneel to you? Who do you think you are, daring to show off here?" A sinister smile takes over Chen Zio's face. "I'm giving you a way out, but you insist on jumping in, huh? You will definitely kneel. Not even Jesus can stop it. I said it." The woman, humiliated and furious, points at him, unable to believe his audacity. But Chen Zio simply looks at her with a superior smile, enjoying her powerless rage. Completely ignoring the enraged woman, Chen Zio turns to the clerk and declares, "Please pack all the ice creams for me. I'm taking everything." To back up his words and silence any doubt, he opens his banking app, showing a balance of more than 2 million yuan, and prepares to transfer the payment. The clerk, completely overwhelmed by the magnitude of the order, sweats nervously and stammers that she needs to consult the manager. Immediately, the store manager, Fei Qi, appears. With a professional smile, he asks Mr. Chen what he needs. Chen Zio, without preamble, asks him to calculate the price of the entire ice cream inventory because he plans to buy it all, closing the store for the day. Manager Fei, calling him young Master Chen, agrees enthusiastically. In his mind, he marvels at the luck of having a big spender buy a month's worth of sales in one go, especially knowing those expensive ice creams rarely sell. Shortly after, the manager returns with the bill. The merchandise on display totals 70,000 yuan, but including all inventory, the total value rises to about 1 million yuan. To Chen Zio, it seems like a reasonable price. It's not that expensive, he thinks with a sly smile. That way I can hide at home and eat ice cream even when the apocalypse arrives. Chen Zio seals the deal, telling the manager he'll transfer a 500,000 yuan deposit and that the rest of the inventory must be delivered to a specific address. Manager Fei, brimming with joy, promises to handle everything personally. With the business closed, Chen Zio turns to the other female customers with a superior smile. "Ladies, today you can choose whatever ice cream you want from the shop." With a triumphant gesture, he announces that it's on him. The women, who had looked down on him before, now cheer him on, amazed by his wealth and sudden appeal. However, his generosity has a limit. His gaze locks onto the arrogant woman who challenged him. "Of course, except you. I'm still waiting for you to kneel to me." The woman is left speechless, her face a map of disbelief and humiliation as she stammers, unable to form a sentence. Finally, the humiliation is too much. The woman breaks down and bursts into tears, dropping to her knees before an impassive Chen Zio. With cutting coldness, Chen Zio looks down at her and says, "You should have learned not to show off. The lesson has been brutally delivered." The scene shifts to a quiet sunset by a lake, marking the end of the confrontation and the beginning of the next phase of his plan. Later, sitting on a park bench, Chen Zio finally enjoys one of the luxury ice creams. "Truly worthy of being an assassin," he comments, savoring the premium texture and flavor. As he eats, a mysterious blue energy begins to emanate from his body, a sign that something extraordinary is about to be revealed. The energy materializes into a dark, rectangular portal. It is his special ability, a storage space that keeps objects in their current state forever. Thanks to this, he'll have fresh ice cream to eat at any time. With a satisfied smile, he stores the bag of ice cream in his pocket dimension. The idea of having an endless supply to lure whoever he wants in the future apocalypse excites him. Surprise hits him when he realizes his ability has been reborn with him. He remembers that in his past life, these abilities only began awakening gradually after the apocalypse started. Looking at his hand, he understands the magnitude of his advantage. Even if I don't understand it, this will be my biggest trump card from now on. With his mind already in the future, he reviews his next objectives. Build a safe shelter, secure cold storage, weapons, and energy reserves. The to-do list is long. Just then his phone ringtone pulls him from his thoughts. Little Fairy is calling Tilda. His face shows surprise. The name Liu Wonking appears on the screen. Chen Zio's expression sours instantly. What bad luck, he thinks, seeing the call from the woman who betrayed him. The phone keeps ringing. Seeing Liu Wonking's name on the screen is like a key that opens the floodgates of Chen Zio's most painful memories, dragging him back to the moments that defined his hatred for her. While the phone rings, memories flood Chen Zio's mind. After his parents died, he felt alone and lost. That was when Liu Wonking appeared, like a savior. In his naivete, he thought she was the light that would pull him out of the darkness. But reality was different. Her true target was the inheritance his parents left him. He remembers her words, demanding that the downtown apartment be put in her name and a bride price of 880,000 yuan to marry. She was a bottomless pit, consuming all his savings. She even suggested he sell his family home, a place full of memories, dismissing it as old anyway, all to satisfy her greed. The pressure was unbearable. She wanted him to sell even the ancestral home just to buy a bigger apartment downtown. The most painful memory is her final betrayal. During the apocalypse, she handed him over to a powerful man, presenting him as special materials that met the man's requirements. Rage burns in his eyes. He risked everything to keep her safe, and she, just to secure a stronger protector, sold him like livestock. The final image of his past life haunts him, his body torn apart, being treated as food by his new owner. In the end, I couldn't even keep a complete corpse, he remembers in horror. Back in the present, his face twisted with vengeful fury, he answers the call. Liu Wonking, since you came straight to me, then let's settle this score properly. The scene shifts to a luxurious hotel, where Liu Wonking is at this moment. She answers in a sweet, fake voice. Honey, you called me. Is something wrong? She asks, starting her performance. Fresh out of the shower, she laments falsely. Oh, I was with friends and I accidentally lost a gold necklace I adored. I'm heartbroken. Chen Zio, playing along, responds with exaggerated generosity. What else can I do? Of course I'll buy a new one for my dear. No, one isn't enough. Buy 10 so you can rotate. Liu Wonking is shocked by his sudden generosity. To justify it, he lies that he's been lucky lately, investing in virtual currency and making a small profit, and that he should spend that money on his beloved. She warns him that virtual currency is a notorious scam, but Chen Zio, with a malevolent smile, tells her he's bored of small games, and this time he plans to play big. He continues his con, telling her he needs a witness for a larger investment loan and asks for her help, promising her 5% of the loan amount as payment for her hard work. The scene reveals she isn't alone. An older, bald man, her lover, asks why she's taking so long in the bathroom. She comes out and in a coy voice assures her honey she'll be ready soon, showing calculated affection. Her inner monologue reveals her true nature. Spending a night with the old man only gets her 5,000 yuan, but she can earn 50,000 just by signing a document for Chen Zio. She dismisses any risk, convinced Chen Zio is a coward and would never dare to trick her. The call ends. The trap has been set. Chen Zio's face shows a cold satisfaction. Liu Wonking, I'll be waiting, he whispers, anticipating his revenge. Now his attention shifts to the next phase. He meets with an architect in front of an apartment building. It's time to build my fortress, he declares. Right here, in 1 month, I want it to become an impregnable fortress. He begins listing his demanding requirements. The windows need bulletproof laminated glass with an invisible anti-theft mesh. The exterior walls must be 3 meters thick of bulletproof concrete, and the entire roof must be covered with solar panels for an independent power system. The list continues, and with every word, the architect's face grows paler. Chen Zio demands an independent ecological system with 72 hours of oxygen supply, a water circulation device, blast-proof doors, and an entry system with dual verification, biometric recognition, and a mechanical lock. To cap it off, Chen Zio throws down his ultimatum, a statement that leaves the architect breathless. In short, within 1 month, this place must be rebuilt into an impact-resistant house equipped with a complete life support system. The architect is in shock. A prepper, end-of-the-world delusions, he thinks to himself. This guy must have watched too many sci-fi movies. Chen Zio, with an intimidating look, confronts him. What can't you do it? I remember your resume said you're a master of defense who's designed bunkers for billionaires. Cornered, the architect stammers that the requirements are very exclusive and the budget will be a problem. But inwardly, a greedy smile forms on the architect's face. He thinks Chen Zio is just another rich kid with apocalyptic fantasies and too much money, and golden opportunity to line his pockets. To silence any doubt, Chen Zio shows him his phone screen. Deposit 1 million, final payment, you name the price. The architect can't believe what he's hearing. Final payment, I name the price, he repeats, ecstatic. Good heavens, I ran into a rich idiot. With one job I'll reach financial freedom. The two seal the deal with a handshake. Chen Zio warns that material quality is paramount, and the architect, blinded by greed, guarantees he'll build something solid as a rock. However, after the handshake, both hide their true intentions. Chen Zio thinks, once the apocalypse arrives, where will you find me to collect? Meanwhile, the architect plans, I'm going to fleece you good. Each believes he's tricking the other. With the fortress under construction, Chen Zio reflects on the next steps. Supplies, medicine, and food are easy to get, but there's a bigger problem. He knows from experience that the most dangerous thing in the apocalypse isn't the natural disaster, but human nature once order is lost. He needs weapons, and firearms are hard to obtain. Walking down the street, he checks his phone, looking for a way to acquire weapons. He receives a message from a black market contact, a secret channel that promises safe transactions for items you can't find elsewhere. Chen Zio asks how to buy. The reply is a private message with an address and a time. 8 p.m. They won't wait for late arrival. As night falls, he heads to the meeting point, wondering how much he should buy and what the place will be like. On the way, the sound of a chase in a nearby alley catches his attention. A young woman is being pursued by 3 thugs who hurl insults at her. Stop right there, you damn slut. Stop already. The girl runs desperately, her face full of panic as she tries to escape her pursuers in the alley's darkness. Just as the thugs corner her, Chen Zio arrives at the scene. The thug leader threatens her. You dare scam people on my turf, tired of living. The woman, terrified, sees Chen Zio and clings to him as her only hope. Please, save me, she begs. Chen Zio freezes as he recognizes her. Is it her, Liu? How is she in a place like this? The unexpected encounter leaves him completely stunned, closing the chapter with a new mystery. In a dark alley, a young woman is cornered by some thugs. Chen Zio watches from the shadows, his hand outstretched as he assesses the situation. The woman, Li Yaoyu, screams in pain as the thugs hold her tightly, her desperation obvious. Seeing the girl's face, Chen Zio recognizes her. It's Li Yaoyu, a figure from his past. A fleeting memory crosses Chen Zio's mind. Li Yaoyu in her school days, the brilliant academic goddess countless boys admired. Back in the present, Chen Zio narrows his eyes. The memory of the past strengthens his resolve. The thug leader yanks Li Yaoyu's hair viciously and demands she hand over the money, or they won't let her go. His underling, a man with bleached blonde hair, suggests with a lewd smile that if she can't pay with money, she can pay with her body. Suddenly, Chen Zio steps out of the shadows, his face hidden behind a mask and surrounded by a green aura. In a cold voice, he orders them to let her go. The thugs and Li Yaoyu turn, startled by the sudden appearance of the mysterious vigilante. Furious at the interruption, the blonde thug lunges to attack, yelling that he'll cripple this reckless brat who dares to play hero. Chen Zio's eyes glow an intense red beneath his bangs, completely unfazed by the oncoming attack. With inhuman agility, Chen Zio easily dodges the thug's clumsy punch. Before the thug can react, Chen Zio grabs his wrist with relentless strength. The thug screams in agony, feeling his bones crack under the pressure of Chen Zio's grip. Ah, my hand. Without missing a beat, Chen Zio kicks him in the stomach, showing his clear superiority in combat. Chen Zio unleashes a devastating punch that sends the thug flying. Immediately, a system notification appears, detecting the intense negative emotions of fear, pain, and rage from his opponent. The system confirms that activating the negative emotion harvesting system was a success. Chen Zio grows thoughtful, realizing this is a power he did not have in his previous life. Seeing his companion defeated, the other thug grabs Li Yaoyu as a hostage, shouting Chen Zio's name and threatening to kill her if he moves. Without hesitation, Chen Zio leaps and throws a chunk of brick with lethal precision, striking the thug holding Li Yaoyu directly in the head. The remaining thugs gape, terrified by Chen Zio's ruthless efficiency and power. Just then, a new group arrives on the scene, led by a long-haired man in a flashy shirt named Mu Qiang, who mocks the thugs for bullying a girl. Enraged by the humiliation, the remaining thugs, one bald and another with a bat, charge the newcomers, yelling that they're looking for death. Chen Zio effortlessly intercepts the bald thug, stopping his punch with a single hand. At the same time, Mu Qiang shows his own combat skill, knocking another thug down with an elegant, powerful kick. Meanwhile, Chen Zio calmly evades another attack, moving with a grace and speed that confounds his opponents, preparing to counterattack. With an icy look, Chen Zio prepares to finish the bald thug, his red eyes shining with a menacing light. In a display of flawless teamwork, Chen Zio and Mu Qiang neutralize the remaining thugs with coordinated kicks and punches, leaving them completely helpless. One of the thugs lies on the ground, defeated, as a boot steps on his chest with disdain, marking the end of the fight. Chen Zio and Mu Qiang stand victorious over the fallen thugs, a clear warning to anyone who dares challenge them. With a voice heavy with authority, Chen Zio looks at the defeated thugs and orders them with a single word: out. As the thugs flee in terror, Chen Zio's system activates again, harvesting their emotions of fear, panic, pain, despair, and humiliation. The accumulated value exceeds 10, unlocking for the first time permission for space expansion. A sly smile appears on Chen Zio's face as Mu Qiang watches him, harvesting negative emotions. Interesting, Mu Qiang thinks to himself, understanding the potential of Chen Zio's new ability. Li Yaoyu, still on the ground, looks at Chen Zio with amazement and gratitude. Chen Zio, I didn't expect to run into you here. Thank you, she says. Chen Zio walks over and with a gentle gesture takes her hand to help her up, asking if she's hurt. He drapes his jacket over her shoulders to cover her torn clothes. Grateful, Li Yaoyu tells him she has to go, and Chen Zio tells her to be careful. Once Li Yaoyu has left, Mu Qiang approaches Chen Zio with a smile. Brother, that feat of saving the damsel was something to see. My name is Mu Qiang, what's yours? Chen Zio confirms that he is the person Mu Qiang had agreed to meet. Mu Qiang is surprised and laughs, commenting on the incredible coincidence and the fate that brought them together. To verify Chen Zio's identity, Mu Qiang strikes a dramatic pose and recites the first part of a coded phrase: the heavenly king covers the earth tiger. Chen Zio stares at him, and instead of giving the password, answers with a veiled insult that leaves Mu Qiang completely confused. Chen Zio's unexpected reply causes the system to harvest Mu Qiang's emotions, astonishment, confusion, and embarrassment, which greatly amuses Chen Zio. Chen Zio laughs and completes the coded phrase, explaining he was only joking. Mu Qiang, though relieved, feels humiliated and tells Chen Zio the joke was ruthless before asking him to follow. The scene shifts to a quiet residential street at night, where the house that will serve as Chen Zio's shelter is located. Mu Qiang presents Chen Zio with a Russian Tokarev pistol. He warns that it's tough and durable, but bullets are scarce, and Chen Zio should use them sparingly. Impressed by Chen Zio's abilities, Mu Qiang offers him a friendship price, treating it as making a new friend. Chen Zio accepts, thanking him. Mu Qiang watches Chen Zio handle the gun skillfully and remarks that his movements are those of an expert. With a calculating smile, Chen Zio begins to bargain, asking if the gun comes with a suppressor, a warranty card, or whether an extra box of bullets can be included. Mu Qiang is stunned. This is a friendship price. Do you even understand what friendship price means? He yells, incredulous. Internally, Mu Qiang is furious, thinking that on the black market people pay double, and this guy is asking for a warranty and extras, almost as if he's asking him to give it away. Mu Qiang's frustration is so intense that he clenches his fists, and Chen Zio's system detects it, happily harvesting his emotions of shock, distress, and disbelief. With the weapon already in his possession, Chen Zio backs off with a smile, saying he was just asking and will pay the agreed price. He transfers the money and concludes the deal, thinking supplies and the weapon are secured. Now his mind turns to the next piece of his plan. Meanwhile, in a luxurious building under the moonlight, another part of Chen Zio's plan is taking shape. In an opulent room, a woman in an elegant red dress, Liu Wangqing, looks out the window at the night city with a pensive expression. Her hand nervously grips the fabric of her dress, showing a doubt that might be real or merely an act. Chen Zio, in a memory or a past manipulation, reassures her, telling her the contract is only a formality and he would never trick her. But in her thoughts, Liu Wangqing mocks him, calling him a love-struck fool who would do anything for her, never suspecting that he is using her. At the table, the lender, An Truong, praises Liu Wangqing for her decision and the beauty of her signature as she leans in to sign the contract, sealing her fate. With a calculating look, she signs the document. An Truong in the background sneers, thinking she foolishly believes she's secured a guarantor, not knowing the debt is now hers. An Truong's malicious smile reveals his true intentions. He and his henchmen laugh, thinking that when she can't pay, she'll have to pay with her body. And with a cold, ruthless look, Liu Wangqing seems to accept that fate, or perhaps she has her own plan in mind. From the comfort of his shelter, Chen Zio watches it all through a screen. Sign it, sign your indenture contract. Your greed perfectly covers the final payment for my safe shelter. Thank you, Liu Wangqing, he thinks with satisfaction. Outside the house, the architect assures Chen Zio that the materials are the highest military grade, reinforced, thermally insulated, soundproofed, blastproof, and even able to withstand several nuclear bombs. Satisfied with the quality, Chen Zio thanks him. The architect, delighted, hands him his card and tells him to look him up if he needs more work. Back inside his shelter, Chen Zio sits on his sofa and turns on the news. His plan is finally reaching its culmination. The news broadcasts an urgent alert. An unprecedented, super-strong solar flare activity will affect the planet. A news anchor reports that continuous extremely high temperatures will hit the entire world. The report warns that temperatures will break historical records and that all citizens must prepare. Chen Zio, ready, cleans his new pistol. With the pistol in hand and a gaze of steel, Chen Zio whispers to himself, finally. Standing with the glow of the imminent apocalypse reflected in his eyes, Chen Zio accepts it. It's here. His eyes shine an intense red, a sign of his power and absolute readiness for what is to come. From his window, Chen Zio watches as the sun, now a monstrous ball of fire, hangs over the city, marking the beginning of the end of the world as they knew it. The news details the catastrophe. A super-strong solar eruption has caused severe disturbances in the ionosphere. Daytime temperatures of up to 45 degrees C are expected, and citizens are advised to take measures against heatstroke. With a grim look, the protagonist, Chen Zio, is fully aware of what is coming. He knows the temperature has begun to rise, but this is only the beginning. The scene shifts to show a city bathed in the light of a scorching sun. The heat is so intense it distorts the air. The heatwave apocalypse has officially begun. The next morning, the city is already under siege from a scorching sun, the air shimmering with heat. A woman leans out onto her balcony and covers her face, sweating profusely. "Oh my God, is it already this hot so early in the morning?" she cries in despair. People on the street complain about the unbearable heat, wondering how long this killer heatwave will last. Taking advantage of the panic, a shop owner, a fat, greedy man named Li Dafu, uses a megaphone to announce that temperatures will keep rising and supplies will be scarce, urging everyone to buy his last batch of stock. Wiping sweat away, Li Dafu thinks to himself with a greedy smile, "This heatwave is basically money delivered to my doorstep. It'd be a crime not to seize this chance to get rich." Some customers complain about the outrageous price of watermelons, but Li Dafu, instead of offering a discount, only has eyes for their beauty. With lust in his eyes, Li Dafu can't help drooling as he looks at the two attractive women. With a flattering smile, he offers to cut one so they can taste it and proposes a discount if they buy two, plus a free pack of tissues, all with the intention of impressing them. The two women exchange a look, uncomfortable with the shop owner's unwanted attention. Li Dafu, completely smitten, even makes an inappropriate offer. "If it's hot at night, you can always come to my place and enjoy the air conditioning." The woman's friend nervously rejects him, saying they'll only buy one. He insists, stepping too close to one of them as he urges her to stock up, creating an extremely uncomfortable situation for the woman. Later, an elderly man leaning on a cane asks Li Dafu if he can lower the price of water a bit, showing the desperation of ordinary people. But Li Dafu rejects him with disdain, shouting, "Small business, no haggling." His cruelty and lack of empathy are obvious. From a distance, Chen Zio watches the scene. Li Dafu's face, absorbed in greed, is unmistakable. A spark of hatred ignites in Chen Zio's eyes. Tusk, this Li Dafu, he murmurs as a painful memory from the past resurfaces. The scene flashes back in time. In his previous life, a young, helpless Chen Zio was in Li Dafu's shop when something fell to the floor. As he bent down to pick it up, Li Dafu loomed over him with contempt. Li Dafu grabbed him violently and shouted for everyone to hear. "Everyone look, this poor brat is stealing. I caught him red-handed." Young Chen Zio tried to defend himself, explaining he only wanted to put the item back where it belonged. But Li Dafu mocked him, insulted his appearance, and demanded he pay or he'd take him to the police station. The other customers in the shop looked at him with contempt, whispering and judging him without knowing the truth, leaving him completely alone and humiliated. With tears of frustration and rage in his eyes, young Chen Zio could only grit his teeth and whisper, I didn't steal." Back in the present, Chen Zio's gaze is cold and piercing. The memory of that humiliation fuels his desire for revenge. He approaches the shop with a confidence and power he didn't have in his previous life. This time, things will be different. Chen Zio enters the shop and sees a bag of chips priced ridiculously at 50 yuan, a clear sign of Li Dafu's price gouging. With a mocking smile, Chen Zio takes a bag and asks Li Dafu whether the chips are made of gold or whether they can prevent heatstroke to justify such a high price. Li Dafu, who is stacking bottles of water, turns around, surprised and annoyed by Chen Zio's sarcastic remark. Chen Zio's system immediately detects Li Dafu's negative emotion. Strong negative emotion detected. Contempt +3. Li Dafu, enraged, snatches the chips from Chen Zio's hand and shouts, "Get out. If you can't pay, don't touch it. Can you afford to pay if you ruin them?" Chen Zio's system keeps working, harvesting more points from Li Dafu's growing frustration. Strong negative emotion detected. Irritation +6. With a malicious smile, Chen Zio keeps provoking him. "Boss Li, hoarding so many treasures. Can you sleep at night? Be careful you don't get robbed." The veiled threat leaves Li Dafu speechless, sweat beading on his forehead as the implication sinks in. Li Dafu explodes with rage. "Who the hell are you cursing? Believe it or not, I'll beat you up, coward. Have you gone crazy from the heat?" Switching tactics, Chen Zio adopts a tone of feigned concern. "Boss Li, calm down. Lately, haven't you been suffering from insomnia, vivid dreams, lower back and knee pain, night sweats, and fatigue?" Li Dafu freezes. Chen Zio described his symptoms perfectly. "Actually, I have been a bit," he admits, shocked. Frightened, Li Dafu starts to wonder if the cause of his ailments is supernatural. Could it be? Is there really a feng shui problem in my warehouse? Chen Zio seizes on his confusion. Tusk, I knew it," he exclaims, grabbing Li Dafu's face. "The area between your brows is turning. And your eyes are unfocused," he shouts, publicly humiliating him as he shakes him in front of the other customer. With a smug smile, Chen Zio delivers his final diagnosis. "This is a classic case of weakness." Li Dafu, completely enraged by the humiliation, screams at the top of his lungs, "You're the weak one. Your whole family is weak. Out." As he walks away, Chen Zio casually tosses a lollipop wrapper onto the floor. One last gesture of contempt. With a casual kick, he knocks over a stack of merchandise, adding insult to injury as he warns Li Dafu to mind his health, because anger can shorten your life. Chen Zio leaves calmly, leaving behind a Li Dafu trembling with rage at the final provocation. The public humiliation and Chen Zio's brazen attitude push Li Dafu over the edge. The system logs a massive harvest. Strong negative emotion detected. Rage +20. That night, under a starry sky, a black cat prowls stealthily along the steps of Li Dafu's now-closed shop. In the rain, Chen Zio watches the shop from afar. "In my past life, I swallowed my pride and let others trample me," he thinks. "In this life, I'll take it all back with interest." A brilliant idea flashes through his mind. "Wait, I think it said I could expand my storage space. The emotions Li Dafu provided are exactly what I need." Determined to act, the system responds to his will. "Consume 20 negative emotions." The command is processed instantly. Storage space expansion complete, +200 M3. A sphere of dark, crackling energy materializes in Chen Zio's hand. The power of negative emotions physically manifested. With his storage space expanded and the power in his hands, a satisfied, predatory smile spreads across Chen Zio's face. Revenge is about to be served. The next morning, sunlight filters through the trees, promising another day of scorching heat. Birds chirp cheerfully on the branches, unaware of the drama about to unfold at the supermarket downstairs. Li Dafu arrives at his shop, his body aching from the rage of the day before. He stretches, unaware his worst nightmare is about to come true. As he gets closer, a drop of cold sweat runs down his cheek. Through the glass doors, the shelves of his shop look empty. He freezes at the entrance, unable to process what his eyes are seeing. The shop, which yesterday was crammed with expensive goods, has been completely cleaned out. Not only the shop, but also his warehouse. Every single shelf, from floor to ceiling, is empty. All his treasury, very bit of his future profit, has vanished without a trace. Lee Dafu's face twists into a mask of pure horror and rage. "Where is my merchandise?" he screams at nothing. He drops to his knees, clutching his head in total agony. "Who did this? Who the hell did this?" he roars, his voice full of despair. Meanwhile, in the comfort of his shelter, Chen Zio watches Lee Dafu's collapse through a monitor. The system lights up with a massive reward, negative emotion plus 66. With an icy calm, Chen Zio takes a sip of his soda, savoring the sweet taste of revenge. Leaning back in his chair, relaxed and satisfied, Chen Zio enjoys the show. The first pawn of his past life has been eliminated, and he has grown much stronger in the process, thus ending the chapter with an absolute victory. In the looted supermarket, boss Lee Dafu screams in fury, demanding to know who stole all his stock and to come out immediately. Boss Lee drops to his knees, overwhelmed by rage and despair as he sees his supermarket completely empty. Crying, he wonders how everything could vanish in a single night. Meanwhile, customers murmur among themselves, speculating whether it was a tactic by the boss himself to raise prices, and wondering what they'll do now that the supermarket is empty. Two women gossip nervously. One tells the other she heard someone saw a dark shadow floating inside the supermarket the night before, and they wonder if the place is haunted. Boss Lee hears the rumor and is terrified by the idea that his supermarket might be haunted. Meanwhile, Chen Zio's system is running at full capacity, detecting the strong negative emotions around him. Intense anger, followed by fear and suspicion. In the crowd, Chen Zio watches the scene with a satisfied smile, holding a bag of potato chips. He checks that Lee Dafu's emotional output is fairly stable. Chen Zio calmly eats a chip, enjoying the chaos he created. With a malicious look, Chen Zio decides it's time to add a bit more flavor to the situation and give Lee Dafu a small stimulus to intensify his emotion. Chen Zio opens the chip bag, and the delicious smell reaches Lee Dafu, who collapsed on the ground, perks up at the sound. A close-up shows the bright, eye-catching bag of chips in Chen Zio's hand. Lee Dafu turns and sees Chen Zio eating the chips. He recognizes the package instantly. His face twisted with rage, Lee Dafu shouts, confirming that packet is from his stolen merchandise. Chen Zio walks up to him, holding the chips, and mocks him. "Boss Lee, are these chips made of gold or do they prevent heatstroke? Why do you sell them so expensive?" Then in a lower, threatening tone, Chen Zio whispers, "Boss Lee, hoarding so many treasures at night. Be careful you don't get robbed." Completely enraged, Lee Dafu jumps up and grabs Chen Zio by the hoodie collar, accusing him outright of stealing his chips and having the nerve to be so arrogant. Despite the aggression, Chen Zio keeps a cold, defiant expression, unfazed by Lee Dafu's fury. Chen Zio calmly replies, warning Lee Dafu that getting physical isn't fun, and asking whether he has any proof of his accusation. And he adds coldly that if Lee talks without evidence, he'll have to take responsibility for his words. Chen Zio continues provoking him. "Speaking of that, your supermarket is spotless. Not a single chip left. How about I give you half this bag?" Lee Dafu, red with rage, remembers how Chen Zio cursed him the day before. Now, with the merchandise gone and seeing Chen Zio eating the chips, he's convinced. If it wasn't you who stole it, who was? Lee Dafu's fury spikes again, and Chen Zio's system logs it immediately. Strong negative emotion detected. Anger plus 18. Turning to the crowd, Chen Zio sows doubt. "These are supermarket chips. Can't other stores have them? Judge for yourselves. Boss Lee lost his own merchandise and now wants to blame me." People begin to waver. One says it's true other stores sell them, but another remembers complaining about the price yesterday, and now the supermarket is empty, which is too much of a coincidence. Lee Dafu can't believe it, thinking to himself, how did this coward suddenly become so bold? Seizing the crowd's doubt, Chen Zio raises the stakes with an intense look. "Boss Lee, if you don't believe me, you can search my house. If you find anything from your store, I'll pay you 10 times over. But if you find nothing, that backup generator behind your store will be mine." Lee Dafu, confident, accepts the wager. "You'd better find it. If not, HMPH, you want my generator. Not in your dreams," he shouts, heading to Chen Zio's home with the crowd following. When they arrive, everyone is stunned. "Wow, Chen Zio's place is this luxurious," someone exclaims. "What a surprise," another adds, shocked by the opulence. Lee Dafu enters and can't believe his eyes. He stares at a dazzling crystal chandelier and blurts out, "Since when did this brat have so much money?" He starts searching frantically. He opens a closet and finds expensive, gleaming suits, deepening his confusion. Then he opens the refrigerator and finds it stuffed with luxury food, cakes, crab legs, sodas, and canned goods. Not a trace of his merchandise. The search continues. He finds an open safe packed to the brim with gold bars. Lee Dafu breaks out in a cold sweat, realizing he isn't going to find anything. With Lee Dafu completely defeated and speechless, Chen Zio steps closer with crossed arms and a mocking smile. Boss Lee, searched enough. Want me to lift the floorboards and check under there too? Humiliated, Lee Dafu stammers, no need. I'll go check other houses. He tries to flee, but Chen Zio stays put, watching him smugly. At that moment, Chen Zio's system harvests Boss Lee's emotion. Strong negative emotion detected. Shame plus 6. Chen Zio doesn't let him escape so easily. He grabs him by the shirt and reminds him, "Don't be like that, Boss Lee. What about the generator we agreed on?" In front of everyone, Chen Zio presses him. "Everyone heard us, Boss Lee. You wouldn't go back on your word, would you?" Lee Dafu scratches his head, nervous and cornered. Lee Dafu tries to wriggle out with a shaky smile. "Generator? What generator? Kid, step back and look at the bigger picture. No need to make things ugly." But Chen Zio replies coldly, "When you were framing me, why didn't you say step back then?" Tension rises and the system triggers again. Strong negative emotion detected. Impatience plus 8. The crowd turns on Lee Dafu. "This guy doesn't keep his word," one says. "Exactly, no integrity. He deserves to get robbed," another adds, sealing the boss's humiliation. Overwhelmed by rage, Lee Dafu lunges at Chen Zio shouting, "Kid, I'm giving you face and you don't want it." But Chen Zio is faster. He catches Lee Dafu's hand with surprising force, neutralizing the attack instantly. With a simple move, Chen Zio twists Lee Dafu's hand, and Lee Dafu screams in pain as he's subdued effortlessly. Lee Dafu's sharp pain feeds Chen Zio's system. Strong negative emotion detected. Pain plus 73. Wriggling on the floor, Lee Dafu surrenders completely. I'll move it. I'm moving it right now," he screams, begging him to stop. Chen Zio looks at him coldly and warns, "Please hurry. When the temperature rises later, we won't even be able to step out the door." He reminds him that electricity will be rationed in a few days, and without a generator, he won't survive. With this final humiliation, Chen Zio harvests a huge amount of negative emotions. Humiliation plus 30, pain plus 86, fear plus 101. His plan is a resounding success. Back in the quiet of his apartment, Chen Zio smiles in satisfaction. He's won the generator and accumulated a large amount of emotional power. Suddenly, his phone starts ringing. The name Liu Wongking appears on the screen. On the other end, Liu Wongking, a woman with whom Chen Zio has a complicated past, says in panic, "Chen Zio, people have been following me these last 2 days. They look like debt collectors." Standing in the darkness of his shelter, Chen Zio answers in an icy voice, hinting at the truth of his plan. "Didn't you say you were only signing a name? Why are they following you?" he reproaches, coldly revealing that she dragged herself into trouble and now the consequences have caught up with her. Over the phone, Liu Wongking desperately demands the truth from Chen Zio. "Why is the Great Sea Gang coming after me? Did you lie to me?" Chen Zio pretends to be hurt, replying in a falsely sentimental tone, "Honey, why do you never believe me? I've sacrificed so much for you. I gave you my whole heart. How could I lie to you? It makes me so sad you say things like that." However, in his thoughts, a malicious smile spreads across his face. "Those filthy Great Sea Gang guys are even more impatient than I expected," he thinks, revealing he's behind it all. Continuing the act, Chen Zio walks to his fridge and casually asks, "By the way, you said the gang is following you. Do they know where you live yet? What did they say?" He listens closely while she assures him they don't know her address and she shook them off in the alleys. Then she warns, "You'd better not be playing me." With exasperating calm, Chen Zio tells her not to overthink it. "Maybe you mistook them for someone else," he suggests, minimizing her fears before hanging up. After the call, Chen Zio calmly sits at the table, where a luxurious dinner awaits, grilled salmon and a soda. His face shows not a hint of worry. During a later video call, Liu Wongking's shocked expression says it all when she sees Chen Zio's meal. She stares through the phone screen, unable to speak, while the image of Chen Zio's delicious food leaves her completely stunned. How do you still have these things?" she asks, incredulous as she sees the succulent salmon plate. Chen Zio takes a sip of his soda and answers arrogantly, "I have more than this. My reserves are huge." Liu Wongking, eyes wide, asks with a mix of surprise and hope, "You have a lot more?" Leaning back on her sofa, Liu Wongking thinks it over. The heatwave has gone on for days and supplies only go to the rich. Where did he get all this? She wonders, starting to suspect. Could it be he really got rich? Chen Zio keeps enjoying his meal, drinking his soda and commenting that on a hot day, nothing beats something this refreshing. Then, with a satisfied smile, he takes a bite of perfectly cooked salmon. Seeing it, Liu Wongking can barely hold back. "Salmon," she blurts out, eyes bulging with desire. Overwhelmed by heat and craving, she writhes on her sofa, shouting at the phone, "I want to eat it, I want it so bad." As Liu Wonking starts begging, asking whether he has enough food, Chen Zio's eyes glow a sinister red. His plan is working perfectly. He keeps eating in silence while she, in a plaintive voice, says, "Chen Zio, I'm so scared of living alone." With a calculating look, she adds, "I keep feeling like they're still nearby." It's the beginning of her attempt to manipulate him. Lying seductively on her bed, she makes the proposal, "Could you let me stay at your place for a few days?" Seeing he doesn't reply, she goes a step further. With a cigarette in hand and a coquettish smile, she says, "I can't." Moving closer to the camera, she slips a strap off her top and whispers suggestively, "Keep you company." Chen Zio watches a piece of salmon on his fork with a triumphant smile, and she took the bait, he thinks. "Liu Wonking, you really are cheap." Pretending to give in, he says, "It'll be hotter soon, so it won't be convenient to go out." He reminds her how she always kept her address secret and never let him visit. "Send me the address. I'll pick you up tonight when it cools down." With a smug smile, Liu Wonking sends her address. "Oh, that's in the past. This is a special situation. You're my boyfriend. If you don't protect me, who will? Fine, I sent the address." With a sinister smile, Chen Zio tells her, "Wait at home like a good girl and don't run." After hanging up, Liu Wonking laughs to herself, completely confident. A simp will always be a simp. Give them a little sweetness and they'll wag their tail. Chen Zio, however, ends the call with pure contempt on his face. He remembers how she used to act cold and wouldn't even let him in, but now she hands over her address for a single bite. Suddenly, loud, persistent knocking on his door interrupts his thoughts. His expression turns serious. On the other side, an older woman with a small child calls out, "Chen Zio, open the door tilde," she pleads. Chen Zio looks through the peephole, his face impassive as he identifies the unexpected visitor. He cracks the door slightly and with a fake polite smile greets her. "Oh, Aunt Wang, what can I help you with?" Aunt Wang, desperate, begs, "Your place is so cool. My air conditioner is broken and the child can't stand the heat. After all, we're neighbors. We should help each other. Can you let us in for a while?" Chen Zio's smile fades, replaced by an icy stare. He slams the door in her face as he brings up the past. "Aunt Wang, do you remember when my mother and I collected plastic bottles and you called us poor trash? You even had the security guards kick us out, and now suddenly you remember me." A flashback shows the painful memory. Aunt Wang, together with a guard, shouts at a young Chen Zio and his mother, "Get out, poor trash, don't dirty our neighborhood." Aunt Wang, furious at being rejected, yells at the closed door. That was so many years ago. Her face twisted with rage, she continues, "How can you hold such a grudge? You have no heart." From inside, a carefree chibi version of Chen Zio replies sarcastically, Sure, I have no heart, but I do have air conditioning." Aunt Wang stands in shock, trembling with anger and disbelief at Chen Zio's heartless reply. Unable to hold back, she explodes and pounds the door with all her strength, cursing him, "Heartless brat, you deserve your parents to die early. You're a rude little punk." Aunt Wang's fury is a reward for Chen Zio. His system immediately detects the intense negative emotion, anger plus 18. And the harvest continues, with a second, even stronger wave, anger plus 20. Chen Zio smiles in satisfaction, another revenge complete. Now it's time for the final phase of his plan. Chen Zio takes a new SIM card out of its wrapper. With precision, he uses the tool to eject his phone's SIM tray and swaps the card. It's time to make an anonymous call. Standing beside his desk, the phone ready, he prepares to contact Liu Wonking's executioner. On the phone screen, the contact name he's calling appears, Great Sea Gang. In a cold, emotionless voice, Chen Zio gives the gang the information they need. "Hello, I have Liu Wonking's address. I already sent it to her, so it's easy to find. She lives alone." He steps onto his balcony, hands in his pockets, gazing at the city lights stretching out before him. He thinks of his next victim, Liu Wonking. As he walks away from the railing, a cruel smile spreads across his face. The show is about to begin. The city sleeps quietly under neon lights, unaware of the catastrophe approaching and the cruel vendettas being woven within it. For some, the night has only just begun. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Liu Wonking admires herself in the mirror, lost in a daydream. She is convinced that soon she'll be able to move into Chen Zio's air-conditioned room. She imagines a life of luxury and comfort. In her fantasy, Chen Zio is at her feet, serving her like a queen. She believes only such a worry-free life is worthy of. With arrogant confidence, she sits on the edge of her bed, satisfied with her plan. She even lights a cigarette, feeling completely in control of the situation. But suddenly, loud, repeated banging on the door interrupts her fantasy. She opens it thinking it's Chen Zio. With a mocking smile, she asks why he arrived so early, calling him an eager simp in her mind. However, her smile vanishes in an instant. terror takes over her eyes. At the door is not Chen Zio, but a group of intimidating men. Terrified, she asks how the hell they found out where she lived. The leader of the group, a burly man, answers her with a cold question. He has come to collect the money she owes his gang. Liu Wangqing collapses to the floor in fear. Immediately she tries to blame Chen Zio, yelling that he borrowed the money and tricked her into signing. But the gang leader doesn't believe a word she says. He shouts in her face that the contract is signed by her, in black and white, so she is the one who paid. With a cold look, the man orders his underlings to search the whole place and take any valuables they find. As his men trash the apartment, she screams desperately for them to stop rummaging through her things, insisting she will call Chen Zio. The leader sits comfortably on the sofa, while his men pile Liu Wangqing's handbags and jewelry onto the table. She watches in horror as her most prized possessions are treated like garbage. The collector sneers, saying those pathetic scraps aren't even enough to cover the interest on the debt. He lifts one of the bags with a contemptuous smile, enjoying her despair. Then, in a threatening voice, he adds that his men didn't come all the way here under this hellish heat just to leave empty-handed. Completely cornered, Liu Wangqing backs away, begging them not to come closer. In one last pathetic attempt, she insists the money is with Chen Zio, preparing to play her final trump card. But the gang leader doesn't care about her words. His gaze is cruel and predatory, making it clear that, to him, the excuses are over and it's time to collect. Desperate, Liu Wangqing tries her last card. She tells them Chen Zio has a ton of supplies and will come looking for her soon. She suggests they wait and demand the money from him. She quickly tries to call him to prove she's telling the truth, but on her phone screen there's only a message. The number is unavailable. A drop of cold sweat runs down her face as she hears the operator's cold voice over and over. Even so, she keeps trying, but the call to Chen Zio simply won't go through. No one answered. Panic shows in her eyes. She stammers in disbelief as she realizes no one is responding on the other end of the line. She can't accept it. Her last hope is fading right before her eyes. How can this be possible? With a forced, trembling smile, she tries to buy time. She tells the collectors to wait, that Chen Zio must be busy and she'll call again immediately. The gang leader has lost patience. He grabs her roughly and yells that she's stupid, that weakling Chen Zio sold her out and never intended to pay the debt. Liu Wangqing is left in shock. The harsh reality of Chen Zio's betrayal finally hits her. The man grabs her by the hair in fury, not caring about her screams of pain. "Let go of me," she cries. As he drags her, she keeps screaming hysterically for them to let her go and to go after Chen Zio, that he's the one who has everything they want. Her screams of terror echo down the hallway as she is dragged mercilessly into a room. The door slams shut, abruptly silencing the scene. Liu Wangqing's phone lies on the floor with its screen shattered, while her muffled screams can be heard from behind the closed door. Meanwhile, far away, the scene shifts. In the comfort of his bunker, Chen Zio enjoys a glass of wine. On his desk, his phone vibrates with Liu Wangqing's call, a call he deliberately ignored. With a cold, calculating smile, he raises his glass in a silent toast. He thinks to himself, "Liu Wangqing, enjoy a good taste of the apocalypse's passion." The camera pulls back, showing the apartment building from the outside, with a single window lit in the darkness. Back in the apartment, the gang leader turns around, adjusting his clothes. The terrible ordeal seems to be over. In a dark corner, Liu Wangqing is curled up on the floor, sobbing inconsolably. She is completely broken. The gang leader smacks a cup against the table in frustration. Even so, he seems unsatisfied. But the gang leader isn't done. He grabs her and demands that she repeat what she said about the good stuff in Chen Zio's home. With a bruised, tear-streaked face, she blurts out the truth: air conditioning, cold drinks, and tons of food. With a split lip and a vacant stare, she whispers that Chen Zio's place has everything. Now she is the one urging them to go after him, shouting that Chen Zio is the person they should be looking for. In one last desperate cry, she swears she has absolutely nothing left. The leader lets her go, tossing her onto the bed. His mind echoes with her words: air conditioning, supplies. He realizes he's hooked a much bigger fish. With a twisted smile, he turns away, leaving Liu Wangqing shattered on the floor. He has gotten the information he needed. He heads for the exit and gives his men an order: "Let's go." The door closes, leaving the apartment in a desolate silence, the remnants of the raid scattered across the floor. Alone, bruised and wrapped in a sheet, Liu Wangqing's pain turns into deep hatred. She curses Chen Zio, vowing he will pay for tricking her, and wishing him a horrible death. The scene shifts. Elsewhere in the city, a group of thugs marches decisively toward an apartment complex. Their target is clear. They move with haste and determination. At the front of the group is Aunt Wang, Chen Zio's resentful neighbor. Eagerly, she guides a new group of thugs led by a man called Brother Zhang. She says that Chen Zio, that little bastard, lives there enjoying air conditioning and luxuries, but is too stingy to share. Brother Zhang, the leader of this gang, seems pleased. He tells the old witch she has done a good job guiding them and that there will be plenty of benefits for her once they get what they want. Aunt Wang smiles with a creepy greed, flattering Brother Zhang for his generosity and saying it's no wonder he's a big boss. In her mind, Aunt Wang remembers her son begging Chen Zio, and that memory fuels her thirst for revenge. With a malicious smile, she thinks, let's see how arrogant you can be this time. The group finally reaches the entrance of Chen Zio's residential complex. Brother Zhang pauses for a moment, thoughtful. He senses something strange in all of this, muttering that this kid Chen Zio is up to something. He and his men plant themselves in front of the building, looking up, ready to act. One of the thugs, eager to prove himself, steps forward. Brother Zhang, watch me kick his door down, he shouts as he prepares to strike. But the instant his shoe makes contact, an electric current surges up from the ground, wrapping around his foot. The thug screams in pain as electricity races through his whole body, to the astonishment of his boss, Brother Zhang. He collapses to the ground, completely immobilized and convulsing. One of his companions yells at him, calling him trash and asking why he stopped. Another thug moves in to help, but the moment he touches him, the current catches him too. Now both are being electrocuted, screaming desperately for help as their bodies convulse violently. Brother Zhang and Aunt Wang watch the scene, completely frozen in confusion and shock. Suddenly, a loudspeaker emerges from the building's wall, pointing directly at. The group is stunned, not understanding what is happening. Confusion spreads across their faces as they stare at the speaker. And to make the situation even stranger, a cheerful good luck song starts blasting at full volume from the speaker. The festive music continues, creating an absurd and terrifying contrast with the men being electrocuted. As the song keeps playing, the men keep screaming in pain, trapped in Chen Zio's electric trap. Terrified, Brother Zhang and the rest of the group jump back. He curses loudly, realizing they've fallen into a trap. Meanwhile, Chen Zio's system is running at full capacity, detecting and absorbing the intruders' intense negative emotions, shock, panic, and confusion. Inside his bunker, Chen Zio watches everything on his monitor, relaxed with his feet up and enjoying an ice pop. With a mocking voice that booms from the loudspeaker, he comments, "Well, brothers, your luck isn't bad. You stepped right onto my protective electric grid." Furious, Brother Zhang yells at Chen Zio to cut the crap. He appeals to some so-called principal, demanding Chen Zio return the money he owed. Aunt Wang joins the shouting, accusing him of having money to renovate his home, but not to pay his debts, even insulting his parents for how they raised him. Chen Zio remains unmoved, lounging in his chair with absolute calm, still enjoying his ice pop. With a malicious smile, Chen Zio answers through the speaker. He reminds Brother Zhang that the market price of his apartment is 4 million, more than enough to cover a 3.5 million debt. And then he delivers the finishing blow. He says that as for Liu Wangqing's debt, that's her problem and has nothing to do with him. Brother Zhang is left speechless. Brother Zhang's face contorts with pure rage. He knows he has been completely played. He mutters to himself that in this new world, supplies are the only thing that matters, but the humiliation is obvious. With chilling calm, Chen Zio gives him one last piece of advice through the loudspeaker. Brother Zhang, a wise man submits to circumstances. I'm in a good mood, so let's end this on good terms. Then his voice turns into an icy threat. If you keep looking for trouble, I won't be so polite anymore. His finger rests on an ominous red butt. To prove he isn't joking, a new, massive electric discharge erupts outside, making the thugs scream in agony once again. The current is so strong their skeletons are visible. One of them screams that he can't take it anymore. Chen Zio's system lights up red, greedily absorbing their emotions of pain and despair. Finally, Brother Zhang gives up. Humiliation and rage are clear on his face as he makes his decision. As he orders the retreat, he throws out one last threat. Chen Zio, just you wait. The Dahai gang won't let you escape. His anger feeds Chen Zio's system even more. Aunt Wang lingers behind, staring at the building with an expression of pure hatred. The humiliation has been too much for her. As she walks away, the building seems to watch her, a dark silhouette crowned with a red aura of malevolence. Her revenge has failed, but her resentment has only grown. The next morning, the street is deserted, bathed in scorching sunlight. The thermometer reads a lethal 52 degrees Celsius. The apocalyptic heatwave worsens. But inside the bunker, it's another world. Chen Zio lounges on his sofa, calmly eating grapes. Refreshing, he says to himself, oblivious to the hell outside. On his TV, the news reports rising deaths from heatstroke, advising citizens not to go outside under any circumstance. His peace is interrupted by the constant buzzing of his phone. It's the building owner's group chat. It's being bombarded with messages from neighbors accusing him of being inhuman and selfish for having luxuries and not sharing them. The hateful messages keep coming. They call him a murderer, demand he share his resources, and come out to explain himself, asking if he has no shame. Chen Zio simply scrolls, reading the torrent of insults with unshakable calm while drinking a glass of iced tea. And with every message, his system delights. A notification appears, detecting an intense emotion, jealousy plus 99, immediately followed by another, anger plus 101. His neighbors, envy and hatred are becoming his fuel. Finally, the system shows the grand total. The negative emotion value has surpassed 1,000 points. Reward calculation has begun. For Chen Ziro, the apocalypse is not just survival, it's an opportunity. With his shelter perfectly stocked, he decides it's time to play a little with the minds of his desperate neighbors. He stands in front of his refrigerator, packed with food. With a malicious smile, he takes out his phone, not to ask for help, but to take a photo that will turn other people's envy into his own power. The camera flash lights up his face, capturing the abundance he is about to rub in their faces. And with a single tap, he sends the photo to the building's group chat. The message is casual, almost teasing. It's true, my stash is pretty big. If anyone wants some, sign up. He knows exactly what reaction it will provoke. As expected, the chat explodes. Please flood the screen. Please share a little. Auntie, send me some food, I can't even walk. The requests become more and more desperate and demanding. Chen Ziro watches the replies coldly and types his condition. He makes it clear he doesn't run a charity. If they want his supplies, they'll have to trade something of equal value. He has no intention of supporting any freeloader. His reply unleashes the group's full fury. Insults and threats come immediately. They call him selfish, wish the worst karma on him, and warn that if they die of hunger, he won't have it easy. Exactly the negative energy he was looking for. Satisfied, Chen Zio leans back on his sofa, ignoring the chaos he created. He has planted the seed of hatred and envy, and now he only has to wait to harvest the fruits. Suddenly, a familiar sound echoes in his mind. It's the system notification. The torrent of negative emotions from his neighbors worked perfect. 2 holographic windows appear in front of him. He has reached 3,000 negative emotion points. As a reward, the system has upgraded one of his abilities, granting him a new technique, spatial cut at beginner level, capable of creating a microscopic rift that cuts anything within a 3-meter range. Chen Zio looks at the notification, intrigued. Spatial cut, he wonders. His storage ability has evolved into something far more lethal, a true weapon. His eyes land on an apple he had left on the table, the perfect target to test his new, dangerous toy. Without even moving from the sofa, he extends his hand. A flash of invisible light slices through the air and the apple splits into 2 perfect halves. The cut is clean, instant. A smile of pure satisfaction spreads across his face. His red eyes glow with power. Now this is getting interesting, he thinks to himself. He can no longer just defend himself, now he can attack. Meanwhile, in the city's desolate streets, an imposing off-road vehicle speeds forward, shattering the silence of the night. It heads straight for Chen Zio's apartment complex. The vehicle door opens and a red heel steps onto the asphalt. The owner of that shoe is none other than Liu Wangqing, Chen Zio's ex-girlfriend. Liu Wangqing steps out of the car with an arrogant expression. She came with dangerous people, convinced she can take revenge on the man who humiliated her and seize his shelter. 2 men in suits, clearly professional thugs, guard the vehicle. The situation has escalated. It's no longer just desperate neighbors. Now organized crime has arrived at his door. Inside the car, the group's leader watches the scene with a cold, calculating gaze. It is Liu Heifeng, a well-known local mob boss, and he has come to claim what he considers his. The group gathers in front of the building. Liu Heifeng, cigarette in his mouth, asks one of his men if they've come to the right place, looking for the Chen Zio he was told about. The man confirms, pointing out that the target is in the building at the back. With the location confirmed, the gang prepares to move in, unaware they are about to knock on the door of a far more dangerous predator. With his target in sight, Liu Heifeng grows bolder. His hand settles possessively on Liu Wangqing, staking his claim in front of her ex's home. With a mocking smile, he asks Liu Wangqing whether it doesn't hurt her heart that he himself is about to lead an assault on the home of her former man. But she, far from showing remorse, snuggles against him. In a coy voice, she assures him her heart now only has room for him, brother Liu. When he presses her, she answers with absolute contempt, referring to Chen Ziro as nothing more than a useless piece of trash. Her face transforms, showing an expression full of venom and hate. She leans over Liu Heifeng and declares, Chen Zio, tonight is the date of your death. Liu Heifeng gives the order, and his men begin to spread out through the residential complex. The hunt has officially begun. Seeing the thugs, some of the more cowardly neighbors, led by Fatty Zhang, run to meet them. Desperate, they offer to help capture Chen Zio, claiming they know the area well and can cut off his escape routes. Liu Heifeng from the top of the stairs gives them a gesture of acceptance. He promises that if they help him catch Chen Ziro, he'll share some of the things in Chen Ziro's room with them. An empty promise for greedy fools. Blinded by greed, the traitorous neighbors celebrate the offer. With a fawning smile, Zhang thanks Big Brother and hurries to guide them along a supposed short. But there is no loyalty among thieves. While the traitors guide the leaders, the rest of the thugs take the opportunity to loot the entire complex, throwing people out of their homes and stealing their last supplies. Completely oblivious to the irony, Zhang proudly leads Liu Heifeng and his entourage through the chaos, believing himself an important ally while his own community is being destroyed behind his back. Karma arrives quickly. When Zhang reaches his own door, he sees the thugs looting his home. He shouts that they're on the same side, but the response is a cruel mockery. Your home, now the whole building belongs to Liu. The other neighbors also fall into despair, screaming that they did nothing to deserve this. But in this new world, innocence offers no protection. One man collapses, lamenting his greed. For the promise of a few crumbs, he has now lost everything. His chance to survive is gone forever. Zhang clutches his head, consumed by regret and fury. I was blind, he yells. How could I trust this pack of beasts? But it is already too late. From a higher position, Liu Heifeng and Liu Wangqing watch with cold indifference the chaos they have unleashed. Surrounded by armed men, they feel like the new owners of the place. Finally, the mob of thugs and neighbors turned vandals crowds in front of the last building, Chen Zio. Armed with axes and clubs, they prepare for the final assault. Just as the mob is about to attack, they're met with a surprise. An entire sofa comes flying out of the building lobby, crashing violently onto the ground in front of them. Chen Zio is ready to play. But the sight that greets them chills them to the bone. They don't see a frightened, cornered man. In an act of absolute defiance, they find Chen Zio calmly enjoying a piece of meat in the middle of the chaos. Seated comfortably at the table, he watches them from the darkness with a smile that is pure provocation. He raises his fork in greeting and with insulting calm asks, were you all looking for me? Chen Zio's calm only serves to enrage Liu Heifeng even more. With Liu Wangqing at his side, he yells that death is imminent and tells Chen Zio to stop acting. He gives an ultimatum, hand over the supplies and he'll at least leave Chen Zio's corpse intact. But Chen Zio, with a calm bordering on insult, takes his time wiping his mouth with a napkin. He doesn't show the slightest fear. Then he looks up and his eyes glow an intense red. In a condescending tone, he asks, didn't your parents teach you it's rude to interrupt people while they're eating? Chen Zio's unbelievable audacity leaves Liu Heifeng completely stunned. His eyes widen, unable to process the level of defiance he is witnessing. Disbelief turns into pure fury. Damn it, Liu Heifeng roars, cripple him. The order is given. Following the order, the thugs rush at Chen Zio. One of them, a burly red-haired man, leads the charge with a punch, while the others follow with knives and other improvised weapons. Chen Zio, however, seems to move at a different speed. He dodges the first blow with astonishing ease, his face completely serene as the thug's fist swings past. His counterattack is instant and brutal. He grabs his opponent's head and slams it into the ground with monstrous force, cracking the pavement. The first thug is taken out of the fight, but the attacks don't stop. Another thug swings a spiked flail strike, aiming straight for Chen Zio's head. Chen Zio moves with inhuman agility, not only dodging the flail, but using the motion to knock down another attacker. He is controlling the battlefield effortlessly. A new danger appears. The blade of an axe glints in the night, dropping at full speed toward Chen Zio. Facing the axe, Chen Zio smiles smugly. The thug yells, but it is Chen Zio's voice that rings out with power. Are you forcing me to use my spatial cut? He's about to end the game. But at that very moment, a tear gas grenade lands at the feet of Liu Heifeng and his group, beginning to release a dense cloud of smoke. Someone else has intervened. The stinging gas envelops them. Liu Heifeng coughs violently and shouts that it's tear gas. Realizing Chen Zio has help, he orders his men to retreat for the moment. Taking advantage of the chaos and confusion created by the gas, Chen Zio jumps away from the fight, cleanly dodging the axe that ends up embedded in the ground. He lands safely on a nearby rooftop, but he is not alone. A figure steps out of the shadows and remarks that, although Chen Zio has made quite a mess, his fighting skills aren't bad. Chen Zio turns and faces him. He recognizes the person who helped him and, frowning, asks directly why he is here. The mysterious helper is none other than Brother Long, the arms dealer. Holding the empty gas canister, he asks Chen Zio if he's still interested in buying weapons, assuring him he has the good stuff. As a sign of good faith, Brother Long shows up with a cooler full of iced water, a treasure in the apocalyptic heatwave. He remarks admiringly that Chen Zio really lives a comfortable life. Chen Zio takes the cooler, sets it on a table, and tosses Long a bottle. Without beating around the bush, he asks why he came. Your territory isn't on this side, he says, making it clear he suspects Long's motive. Brother Long drinks the water Chen Zio gave him and begins to explain. It turns out Liu Heifeng's men have been interfering with his business, so he's been keeping watch on them for days. When he saw them heading toward this area, he decided to follow, not expecting that a mob boss's target would be Chen Zio. With a sly look, he comments that to have so many supplies, Chen Zio must have special channel. Chen Zio's eyes glow red. He stays silent, analyzing the hidden intent behind the dealer's words. Finally, he cuts him off with a cold stare. What are you trying to say? He asks, making it clear he has no time for games. Brother Long, getting the hint, raises his hands in peace. Don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to meddle, he says, trying to ease the tension he created. Then he reveals the real reason for his visit. He proposes that Chen Zio cooperate with him to steal the huge stockpile of purified water Liu Heifeng has been hoarding. Long knows the base layout, and he needs Chen Zio's mysterious ability to move the goods out. Chen Zio weighs the offer. He knows that with temperatures rising, water is more valuable than gold. It's an opportunity too good to pass up. To Brother Long's surprise, he expected a long negotiation. Chen Zio accepts the cooperation without hesitation. But surprise turns into shock when Chen Zio sets his terms, a 9-to-1 split. He keeps 90%. Brother Long explodes, shouting that this is armed robbery. Even in the middle of a negotiation, Chen Zio's system keeps working, detecting the strong emotion in his new partner and rewarding him with 40 points of shock. Chen Zio isn't moved by the complaint. Not willing, he answers coldly. Then there's nothing to talk about. He is ready to cancel the deal, knowing he holds all the cards. In a comedic twist, Brother Long throws away all pride and clings to Chen Zio's leg, begging for an 8-to-2 split. I need to eat too, he pleads. As he humiliates himself, his mind races. Chen Zio's unbelievable confidence can only mean he has an ace up his sleeve. And truthfully, there's no one more suitable for this job. He has no other choice. Chen Zio, sitting on the sofa, finally relents a little. He agrees to an 8-to-2 split, but with an additional condition. If Long gets new goods in the future, Chen Zio will have the right to pick first. Completely defeated, Brother Long has no choice but to accept. Fine, you win, he says, sealing the most lopsided deal of his career. Now in command of the operation, Chen Zio relaxes on the sofa and gives the first order. Deal. The first step is to figure out the fortress structure and the layout of its personnel. Soon after, the two meet on a rooftop overlooking Liu Heifeng's fortress. Long explains that the trading area, where people exchange goods for water, is right at the entrance. From above, it's clear the place is heavily guarded. Armed guards with rifles and shotguns patrol the complex streets, making it obvious that getting in won't be easy. Long adds an even more sinister detail. In that place, Liu Heifeng doesn't only trade water, he also trades people. He points to a group of captured women, forced to provide special services to the leader. The camera focuses on a woman in a red dress as a man in a suit grabs her tightly. Her terrified expression reflects the brutality suffered by all the prisoners in Liu Heifeng's fortress. The face of one of the captured women says it all. The fear in her expression is a raw reminder of the cruelty that reigns in Liu Heifeng's domain. Brother Long continues explaining the plan. He knows the water warehouse is at the back of the complex, but admits he still hasn't been able to figure out the exact location. Chen Zio, however, has his own plan. He tells Long he will infiltrate alone to investigate, and when he gives the signal, Long must create chaos on the perimeter to distract the main force. Long is stunned. Alone, he asks, how do you plan to move all that water by yourself? With unshakable confidence, Chen Zio simply replies, I have my methods. And with that, he leaps into the void, landing silently inside the enemy complex without any guards noticing his presence. Once inside, Chen Zio walks through the factory courtyard as if he owns the place. He has changed into more discreet clothes, trying to blend in. But it doesn't take long for him to draw attention. A guard stops him, pointing a shotgun at him. Stop, I don't recognize you. Are you new? Where's your ID? Unfazed, Chen Zio pulls out a white card and improvises an excuse on the spot. Boss Liu sent me to take inventory of the water stock, he says naturally. The guard, however, isn't stupid. He scoffs. Take inventory. Do you take me for a child? He says as he presses the shotgun barrel in, making it clear he doesn't believe the story. The guard's mockery is exactly what Chen Zio needs. His system detects the negative emotion and rewards him with 5 more points. Chen Zio smiles to himself. So far, he thinks, I've only used my spatial cut to slice apples. Today I'm going to test something different. his hand moves, almost invisible to the eye. A flash of green light slices the air. Chen Zio has unleashed his power. The cut is clean and lethal, and the guard doesn't even have time to react. The thug can only let out a choked sound as he collapses, life leaving his body in an instant. Blood spills from the wound as Chen Zio passes by without even looking at him. The first demonstration of his power in combat has been an absolute success, and the reward is immediate. His system records the dying man's horror and pain, granting Chen Zio 100 negative emotion points in a single burst. The guard's partner finds him on the ground and freezes in horror. He quickly draws his pistol, ready to avenge his fallen comrade. He aims straight at Chen Zio and pulls the trigger. But to his astonishment, a line of green energy appears from nowhere and slices the bullet in two mid-flight. Chen Zio can not only attack, he also has an impenetrable defense. Before the guard can even process what just happened, another spatial cut hits him, beheading him instantly. Chen Zio's system floods again, this time with 200 points of pure fear and despair. The gunshots have alerted the entire base. Within seconds, dozens of armed men, some even with rocket launchers, begin running toward the scene. Chen Zio hides behind a corner, listening to the sound of boots approaching. He remains completely calm as the guards draw near his hiding place, waiting for the perfect moment for his next move. Hidden in the shadows, Chen Zio waits with supernatural calm. He hears the footsteps of the mob approaching, but there isn't a trace of fear on his face, only cold focus. With a quick movement, he peeks out. His eyes, glowing in the dark, scan the area, searching for the perfect escape route amid the chaos he himself has created. While the horde of thugs concentrates on the area where the shots were heard, frantically searching for the intruder, Chen Zio has already slipped off in the opposite direction. The guards search an empty warehouse, completely unaware that their prey is moving with total freedom through their fortress. Turning a corner, he comes face to face with a young woman. Before he can react, she puts a finger to her lips, asking for silence with an urgent look. He crouches beside her, noticing the cleaning bucket. He asks in a low voice what she's doing there in the middle of all the commotion. With her head lowered, she confesses she was captured. Then she looks at him with a mix of fear and curiosity and asks if he was captured too. Chen Zio ignores the question, his mind fixed on the mission. "Do you know where the water warehouse is?" he asks directly. To his surprise, she nods. She explains that because she was forced to clean, she memorized the layout and can lead him there. In that moment, an unexpected alliance is forged in the heart of enemy territory. She has become the key to the success of his mission. To create a distraction, the young woman kicks her metal bucket, which clangs loudly as it rolls across the pavement. The noise immediately alerts a group of heavily armed guards. "Someone over there," they shout, and without hesitation, they all sprint toward the sound. With the guards distracted, she takes the chance to guide him. "Follow me," she whispers. "I know a path without surveillance cameras." The two slip through a dark, filthy alleyway, moving like shadows, while most of the complex security is occupied elsewhere. Finally, they reach an imposing steel door. Chen Zio gives her one last instruction: "Find a place to hide and wait for me." She nods, placing her trust in this mysterious stranger. Once alone, Chen Zio faces the door. He concentrates his spatial power in his hand, forming a small vortex of dark, destructive energy. He places his hand on the thick steel plate. The energy expands, and the door begins to crack and warp under the incredible pressure. With a smooth motion, he unleashes all his power, cutting through the metal as if it were butter. The solid steel door blasts inward, turning into a rain of shrapnel and debris. A guard watching inside is thrown to the ground by the sudden explosion, completely stunned. Terrified, he looks up at the silhouette emerging from smoke and rubble. He can barely force out the words, Who are you? How did you get in?" The guard trembles, paralyzed by fear. Before him, Chen Zio's eyes glow an intense red, like a predator that has cornered its prey. Behind him, the treasure he sought, a gigantic warehouse, packed to the ceiling with bottled water. There is no time for mercy. Before the guard can raise his weapon, Chen Zio lunges at him. A flash of reddish energy envelops him completely. It is his spatial cut, and this time there is no escape. The guard's face twists into a grimace of agony. A line of dark, crackling energy appears on his neck, the mark of his imminent death as Chen Zio's power consumes. The system roars with one last notification. The avalanche of the guard's emotions in his final moments grants Chen Zio a massive reward: 120 points of shock, 120 of fear, and 120 of pain. A bloody and profitable end to his infiltration. Meanwhile, Jiang Chen waited nervously, wondering whether something had happened to Chen Zio inside the warehouse. Suddenly, the door blew off its hinges and went flying. The blast threw her backward as fire and debris filled the area. Terrified, Jiang Chen grabbed a brick, preparing to defend herself against whatever was coming out. Through the smoke and dust, a human silhouette began to take shape, and panic seized. Thinking it was an enemy, she screamed and attacked with all her strength, swinging the brick at the figure. But her blow was stopped. It was Chen Zio, who had effortlessly caught her wrist, staring at her. With chilling calm, he told her everything was settled and it was time to leave. Jiang Chen, still in shock, followed him, dropping the improvised weapon. Chen Zio pulled out a flare gun, readying it with a quick, confident motion. He aimed at the sky and fired. A bright signal streaked through the night. The flare burst, lighting up the area like fireworks. The first phase of the plan was complete. Jiang Tingting stared at him in amazement as a satisfied smile appeared on Chen Zio's face. Everything was going according to plan. From a nearby rooftop, his accomplice, Gator, saw the signal. He muttered to himself that Chen Zio wasn't half bad. Without wasting time, Gator shoved a cart he had prepared, loaded with Molotov cocktails ready to be thrown. With one push, he unleashed a rain of fire over the hideout of Liu Heifeng's thugs. Within seconds, flames completely engulfed the building, turning it into a blazing inferno. Liu Heifeng's men panicked. Trapped on the rooftops, they screamed desperately for someone to put out the fire. One of them realized the truth and shouted to the others that they were incendiary bombs and to run for their lives. While chaos erupted behind him, Chen Zio calmly guided Jiang Tingting, pointing out the escape route he had planned through an alley. His gaze turned cold, his eyes glowing an intense red that reflected the thirst for revenge inside him. But just as he was about to leave, a figure appeared out of nowhere. It was Su Tong, his ex-girlfriend, now begging him to take her with. She pleaded, appealing to their past relationship, hoping the memory of when they were lovers would move. She even tried to bribe him, saying she would forgive the debts he had racked up in her name if he got her out of there. But Chen Zio only smiled with contempt. He told her she was the one who didn't understand the situation at all. Tears began to well in Su Tong's eyes as she realized her act wasn't working. Desperate, she began spinning a pitiful story. She said she was forced to serve old men every day. She went on to explain that if she resisted, they beat her, and if she tried to escape, they caught her and dragged her back. She begged him to let her live with him, promising she would do anything, since she had nowhere else to go. Chen Zio's expression hardened. He reminded her of the past, how she mocked him for having no money, deceived him, and finally led him to his death at Liu Heifeng's hands. The memory of her betrayal filled his eyes with fury, while she froze in fear. In his mind, he relived the moment from his past life, betrayed, surrounded, and stabbed to death by the men she herself had led there. In an icy voice, he asked whether she had ever, while carving him up in his past life, imagined that this day would come. The image of her smiling as he died was burned into his memory. There could be no forgiveness. Without warning, he slapped her with brutal force, sending her to the ground as he told her her acting was still terrible. He turned to a stunned Jiang Tingting and simply said, "Let's go." Chen Zio and Jiang Tingting walked away, leaving Su Tong lying on the ground, abandoned in the middle of the street. From the ground, Su Tong screamed in rage. She swore that if he wouldn't let her live, she would make sure no one would have it easy. And at that moment, Chen Zio's system reacted, detecting an intense negative emotion and granting him more than 999 points of hatred. Meanwhile, at the burned warehouse, Liu Heifeng arrived screaming like a madman, desperate to know whether his water was safe. He and his men kicked down the door, expecting to find their reserves. Instead, they found only the devastation Chen Zio had left behind. The warehouse was completely empty. Not a single drop of water remained. All his precious resource, the foundation of his power, had vanished completely. But worse than the empty warehouse was what was on the wall. Chen Zio had left a message. "Boss Liu, I took the water. Next time I'll take your life." Humiliation and fury made Liu Heifeng explode into a deafening roar, demanding to know who was responsible. At that moment, Su Tong crawled to him, crying and blaming Chen Zio. She said she tried to stop him, but he hurt her. She continued her lie, adding fuel to the fire by telling Liu Heifeng that Chen Zio called him trash. She whispered in his ear that Chen Zio considered him unworthy of owning those resources, manipulating his wounded ego. To top it off, she claimed Chen Zio's plan was to kill them all, ensuring Liu Heifeng's rage overflowed. Completely enraged, Liu Heifeng ordered all his men to follow him to the south gate to finish off that bastard. Meanwhile, on a rooftop, Chen Zio and Gator calmly watched the commotion unfolding below. Watching the fire and chaos, Chen Zio simply commented on how noisy they were, as if it were all a show to him. Liu Heifeng arrived with his army of thugs, finding Chen Zio waiting for them, unmoved by their numbers. Chen Zio even mocked him, congratulating him on his speed, while holding a torch with a malicious smile. Fed up with the taunts, Liu Heifeng shouted for his men to get him, unleashing his horde of thugs. But Chen Zio simply let his torch fall. A line of fire erupted on the ground, forming a barrier of flames no one could cross. Liu Heifeng's men stopped dead, trapped and helpless before the wall of fire blocking their way. From the other side, Liu Heifeng shouted Chen Zio's name, vowing to make sure he died. His hatred was so intense the system activated again. Chen Zio smiled, sarcastically thanking Boss Liu, as he absorbed the new emotion points Liu's rage was providing. Ding! The system announced that his negative emotion points had reached 3,000, unlocking a new skill, the spatial barrier. The scene shifts to the quiet night, showing the apartment building where Chen Zio's shelter is located. Back in the bunker, Gator raised a toast enthusiastically, congratulating Chen Zio on his incredible plan. While Jiang Tingting served the food, Gator laughed, imagining Liu Heifeng's fury when he found his warehouse completely empty. The feast was incredible: meat, fresh vegetables, and beer, an impossible luxury in the hell outside. While serving soup, Jiang Tingting thanked Chen Zio sincerely. She told him that if it weren't for him, she didn't know how much longer she would have survived in that hell. Chen Zio, watching his monitors, brushed it off, saying they were old classmates and she didn't need to be so formal. But to her, it was more than that. She confessed he made her feel that there were still people in the world you could trust. Gator broke the moment, joking about the heroic rescue of the beautiful lady he had witnessed earlier. But curiosity gnawed at him. He leaned toward Chen Zio and asked how the hell he did it. He asked if Chen Zio used magic to empty the entire water depot all by himself, as the camera revealed a mountain of water jugs. Both Jiang Tingting and Gator were speechless, overwhelmed by the impossible amount of water Chen Zio had obtained. Facing Gator's astonished expression, Chen Zio simply replied that he had his methods, and that now they needed to focus on how to sell all that water safely. Changing the subject, Chen Zio asked Jiang Tingting what had happened to her, since he hadn't heard anything since they finished high school. The question seemed to strike a nerve. With a distant look, she answered that her family had suffered some accidents after graduation. A dark memory rose in her mind. She wondered aloud where her mother and father might be. She remembered a blood-stained door, a scene that had clearly marked her forever. Finally, she revealed the painful truth. Her parents had disappeared at the same time, leaving her alone. The revelation left Chen Zio and Gator silent, realizing her story was more tragic than they had imagined. Suddenly, an intense orange glow filled the room, interrupting dinner. The crackling sound of flames alerted. They looked out the window and saw the building across the street completely engulfed in flames. Liu Heifeng's attack had begun. Gator and Jiang Tingting panicked, shouting that everything outside was on fire. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. But Chen Zio wasn't looking out the window. He coldly watched his security monitors, seeing Liu Heifeng's men preparing to attack. On the screens, chaos reigned. Neighbors, trapped by the fire Liu Heifeng started, screamed for help to save the children. Gator slammed the console in fury, realizing that bastard Liu Heifeng was trying to kill them all, along with the innocent residents. Jiang Tingting looked at Chen Zio with worry, asking if they weren't going to do something to help the people outside. But Chen Zio remained unmoved. He knew Liu Heifeng wanted to use morality and innocent lives like a rope to snare him, but he was no longer the good Samaritan of his past life. Outside, Liu Heifeng shouted, daring Chen Zio to hide in his turtle shell, while threatening to burn the whole area to the ground. One of his men flattered him, saying the plan was brilliant. Even if the fire didn't kill them, the smoke would suffocate. Liu Heifeng stood amid the flames he himself had ignited, smiling arrogantly, convinced of his victory. He gloated, believing this was the end for anyone who dared defy him. Hell burned across the entire street, a testament to his cruelty and desperation to finish Chen Zio. Panic finally hit Gator and Jiang Tingting. They realized the heat would conduct inward and roast them alive. But Chen Zio didn't even flinch. A faint smile formed on his face. He asked whether they truly thought he'd be stupid enough not to install the best fire protection system in his shelter. With total calm, he walked to his console and pressed a big red button to activate his defense. Outside the building, an automated system activated, spraying a liquid that extinguished the flames instantly. The system deployed small capsules that created an invisible barrier, completely isolating the building from the fire. The isolation barrier spread, protecting the shelter and leaving Liu Heifeng and his men stunned. Gator, watching the scene on the monitor, shouted in disbelief. He recognized the material as nanometer-grade aerogel, cutting-edge military tech. Jiang Tingting covered her mouth, completely speechless at Chen Zio's unbelievable preparation. From the street, Liu Heifeng watched as the flames died out around the building, his plan completely thwarted. He clenched his teeth in rage, muttering that this had become a fight to the death. One of his men, frustrated and powerless, hurled a bottle at the invisible barrier in a useless gesture of rage. The fire still raged, but it was useless against the aerogel barrier, protecting Chen Zio's shelter. Liu Heifeng, furious, kicked one of his men and ordered them to press on, refusing to believe Chen Zio's defenses were endless. But his man reported the harsh reality. They were running out of fuel. The strange white mist was too powerful. Taking advantage of their frustration, Chen Zio stepped out with a megaphone and mocked him, asking if he'd played with fire enough and whether he wanted to come in for a glass of iced water. The provocation worked. The anger of Liu Heifeng and his men spiked, and Chen Zio's system detected another huge harvest of negative emotion. Suddenly, greed overtook Liu Heifeng's anger. He realized killing Chen Zio would be a waste. That shelter, safe and self-sufficient, had to be his. With a malicious smile, he decided that if brute force wouldn't work, he had no choice but to abandon even the last trace of civility. His men dragged out an elderly woman and a terrified little girl. His new plan was to use innocent hostages to force Chen Zio to come out. From the safety of his bunker, Chen Zio watched in silence, his face unreadable as the cruel ultimatum unfolded in front of him. Outside, Chen Zio's neighbors, now hostages, are being tormented. One of them, desperate, yells at him to come out and see how people are suffering because of him. The one responsible for all this, Liu Heifeng, smiles maliciously, enjoying the chaos he created. Another hostage, crying, blames Chen Zio for offending boss Liu and dragging them all into this mess. From inside, Chen Zio's companions watch the situation. One of them, furious, says that if Liu Heifeng dares go any further, they'll go out and fight to the death. But Chen Zio thinks to himself, recognizing that Liu is using other people's lives to blackmail. Liu Heifeng, losing patience, threatens to start killing the hostages if Chen Zio doesn't come out. The old man, unafraid, yells that for doing this, he'll die a horrible death. Watching everything from a window, Chen Zio recognizes the old man being threatened. It's Grandpa Wang. A memory comes to mind. In the past, after he had been beat, it was Grandpa Wang who found him and gave him words of encouragement, telling him that as long as he was alive, there would always be hope. Back in the present, Chen Zio's gaze has turned cold and resolute. He turns around and gives an order to his companion, Mu Kang. He tells her to stay inside to protect Yaoyu, while he goes out to settle things with boss Liu. With a serious expression, Chen Zio finally steps out of his shelter to face the situation. He stands on the rooftop and shouts at Liu Heifeng, making it clear the issue is only between the two of them and has nothing to do with anyone else. Liu Heifeng mocks him for finally coming out of hiding. He provokes him, asking if he wants to play the hero and demanding money and water in exchange for the hostages' lives. Chen Zio smiles faintly, repeating his enemy's words, "Play the hero." His expression changes, and with a cold look, he says he has no interest in that at all. Instead of fighting, Chen Zio proposes a different solution. He tells Liu that fighting is boring and suggests they settle their problems with a wager, since he heard Liu runs a casino. And then he lays down the rules. If Liu wins, everything Chen Zio has will belong to him. But if Chen Zio wins, Liu must release Grandpa Wang and get out of the area. Liu Heifeng laughs loudly and accepts the deal, grabbing a dice cup. He declares they'll bet on big or small, one single round to decide life or death. Chen Zio, unfazed, takes his own cup, accepting the life or death challenge. With complete confidence in his voice, he makes his bet before even rolling. "Fine, I bet big." The showdown has begun, a duel worthy of the gods of gambling, Chen Zio versus Liu Heifeng. Like in a gambler movie, Liu Heifeng puts on sunglasses and starts shaking the cup with an air of superiority. Chen Zio doesn't fall behind. Entering the game, he mimics the pose, ready for the duel. The tension peaks. They stare each other down, determination etched on their faces as they shake the dice. With a shout, Liu Heifeng slams the cup onto the table, making his play. Chen Zio answers with the same intensity, planting his cup on the table. Both cups sit on the table. The moment of truth has arrived. But Liu Heifeng has an ace up his sleeve. Discreetly, he presses a hidden button on his cup. A magnet inside activates, pulling the dice and forcing them to turn until they all show 6. He's cheating to guarantee victory. Liu Heifeng lifts his cup with a triumphant smile. 3 6s, the maximum score. His men cheer as he declares Chen Zio has lost. However, Chen Zio remains completely calm. With an enigmatic smile, he tells Liu not to get ahead of himself, because the winner hasn't been decided yet. And the instant he lifts his cup, an invisible force goes into action. The dice split cleanly in half in midair. The dice pieces fall onto the table. Chen Zio, with insulting calm, tells Liu Heifeng it seems his dice aren't very good quality. Liu Heifeng and his henchmen gape, completely stunned. They can't believe what they're seeing. Every die split perfectly in half. The hostages are just as confused and amazed. asking how something like that could have happened. Chen Zio's voice cuts through the silence. Adding up the visible faces of the split dice, the result is 21, an impossible score, higher than Liu Heifeng's supreme. Liu's face tightens with pure rage. Holding the halves of a die as if it were nothing, Chen Zio stares at him and delivers the verdict. You lost, release him. Liu Heifeng grits his teeth, speechless in the face of humiliation and the unexpected defeat. Finally, his anger explodes. Unable to accept it, he screams that Chen Zio dared to cheat. The mobster, furious at the humiliation, breaks his word. He pulls a knife and charges straight at Chen Zio, yelling for him to go to hell. The hostages watch Liu Heifeng's violent reaction in horror, but for Chen Zio, this is exactly what he expected. He thinks to himself that it's the perfect moment to test a new ability. Liu Heifeng lunges to stab him, but his knife cuts only air. Chen Zio has vanished completely from his sight. Completely confused, the mob boss stops, unable to understand where he went. Suddenly, he feels a tap on his shoulder. Chen Zio has appeared behind him, and without giving him time to react, he kicks a heavy gas cylinder at him with tremendous force. The impact kicks up a huge cloud of dust and debris. From a distance, Liu's men shout in concern for their boss. When the dust settles, Liu Heifeng gets up coughing. He tells his men he's fine and angrily orders them to find Chen Zio. From the other side of the smoke, Chen Zio calmly watches his enemy regroup. Seeing him, Liu Heifeng points with renewed fury, shouting to his men that Chen Zio is right in front of them. Without hesitation, he gives the order to kill him. His henchmen open fire, unleashing a rain of bullets. But something strange happens. One of the men screams in pain as a mysterious energy pierces him. Liu Heifeng doesn't understand what's going on. The same energy lashes through another of his men, dropping him instantly. When the gunpowder smoke clears, Chen Zio's figure emerges from the chaos, completely unscathed. Furious, one of the thugs decides to escalate. He pulls out a rocket launcher and shouts that no matter how strong Chen Zio is, he won't be able to dodge this. With a shout of "Die, Chen Zio," he fires the rocket. In his mind, he already sees himself claiming the young man's fortune as his own. But just as the missile is about to hit, a system notification appears. Spatial barrier activated. A bluish energy materializes in front of Chen Zio, stopping the projectile dead. Chen Zio doesn't even flinch. He stands there, impassive, while his barrier stops the most powerful weapon his enemies have. The barrier doesn't just stop it. The pressure is so intense it begins crushing the rocket like paper, until it shatters into pieces. Liu Heifeng's face turns into a mask of sheer terror. Cold sweat breaks out, his eyes wide, unable to comprehend what he just witnessed. His mind can barely process it. Reality slams into him. Chen Zio just blocked a missile. With eyes glowing an intense red and a superior smile, Chen Zio mocks him. He asks whether the great boss Liu can't afford to lose in front of so many people. With a cold, piercing gaze, Chen Zio asks him directly whether he plans to break his side of the wager. The missile's remains, chopped into pieces by the spatial barrier, fall uselessly to the ground like mere toys. As fragments rain down around him, Chen Zio walks away from the entrance to his shelter with absolute calm, as if nothing happened. Liu Heifeng and his men are on the ground, completely paralyzed by fear, as Chen Zio's figure approaches them. Standing in front of him, Chen Zio humiliates him, saying he doesn't even have a decent knife and isn't on Chen Zio's level to negotiate. Terrified, Liu Heifeng realizes something is very wrong with this young man. Chen Zio takes Liu's knife and presses it against his own throat. With restrained fury, he declares that Liu has crossed the line too many times, and it's time to settle account. Liu Heifeng's mind races. He knows fighting this monster is a losing battle. Quickly, he decides it's better to try to recruit him so he can recover his losses with interest. In an instant, the terror on his face turns into pleading. The mob boss is a survivor and knows when to change tack. With shameless falsehood, he starts begging. He calls Chen Zio brother, claims it was all a misunderstanding, and proposes a deal as if they were old friends. As Chen Zio looks down at him, Liu begs him not to kill him, arguing that in this apocalyptic new world, a human life is worth nothing, but Liu can help him live better. Desperate, he plays his strongest card. He offers Chen Zio a batch of valuable antibiotics, penicillin, and other medicines in exchange for letting him live. The offer seems to catch Chen Zio's attention. His red eyes study him, weighing the proposal. With a smile, Chen Zio puts a hand on his shoulder and acknowledges that in times like these, antibiotics are indeed a very valuable currency. But then he leans in and whispers in his ear, telling him that, to be honest, the things Chen Zio has stored in his shelter far exceed anything Liu could imagine. Liu Heifeng, trying to regain some leverage, reminds Chen Zio that he only has food and drink, and that a simple illness could be fatal. He reveals the medicines are in an abandoned factory, and only he knows the password. Chen Zio, his face hidden in shadow and his eyes glowing, finally accepts the deal with a simple, cold, "fine." Visibly relieved but still cautious, Liu Heifeng declares the matter of that night settled. Chen Zio drapes an arm over his shoulders in an unsettlingly friendly manner, agreeing that the misunderstanding has been cleared up. Liu's forced smile reveals his discomfort. Chen Zio tells Liu to leave and that they'll talk details another time. The mob boss walks away, visibly exhausted and defeated. His men gather around him, worried. However, the look on Liu Heifeng's face is dark and calculating. For him, this is definitely not over. Trying to save face, Liu Heifeng orders a retreat and leaves with his men, acting as if everything is under control. Chen Zio watches them go, knowing perfectly well it isn't a dignified retreat, but a desperate flight. And he laughs to himself. Did Liu really think a simple password could stop him? With spatial powers, a locked door is no obstacle. Once the gangsters are gone, Chen Zio approaches the freed hostages and assures Grandpa Wang that they are safe now. But not everyone is grateful. One neighbor who had insulted him earlier now looks at him with a mix of resentment and fear, clenching a fist in helplessness. That terrified expression doesn't escape Chen Zio's system, which grants him 100 freshly harvested fear points. Grandpa Wang, on the other hand, is deeply grateful. He thanks Chen Zio for saving his life and offers to help however he can, even if it's only small tasks like gardening. Chen Zio kindly tells him he understands the good intention, but advises him to go home, lock the door tight, and rest, while the other neighbors watch in silence. Night falls over the city, bathed in the light of a sinister, enormous red moon, foreshadowing that the danger is not over yet. Far away, as Liu's gang retreats through an alley, one of the men admits Chen Zio's power nearly scared him to death. Liu Heifeng at the front of the group sneers. Did that brat really think he would cooperate and share the medicine with him? Not in his dreams. As he lights a cigar, he reveals his real strategy. It was all a tactic to buy time. He'll let Chen Zio get the supplies for him and then kill him. To Liu, the young man is still far too naive. His men praise his supposed wisdom, sure that Chen Zio won't survive their boss's plan. However, one of them, more cautious, recalls Chen Zio's incredible display of power, mentioning that not even missiles could get close to him. Liu starts giving orders to his trusted man, Pineapple Head, to investigate Chen Zio, but his words are violently interrupted. Out of nowhere, a twisted, dark energy tentacle pierces his chest from behind. His face freezes in pure disbelief and pain. The mob boss collapses, dead. His men, seized by panic, scream that it's a ghost and flee in all directions. In the dark, silent alley, only Liu Heifeng's lifeless body remains, abandoned by his loyal underlings. High above the scene, atop a building, the true killer watches his work from a distance, Chen Zio. With a cold smile and a farewell gesture, he says goodbye forever to Boss Liu. With that threat eliminated, he returns to the safety of his bunker, just in time to see the world face a new level of catastrophe. Just when one problem seems solved, the world worsens drastically. An emergency bulletin announces that the global heatwave is completely out of control, and the planet's ecosystem is on the verge of total collapse. From the comfort of his shelter, Chen Zio watches the news. The overwhelmed government offers citizens only two options: migrate north to temporary shelters or stay in their homes and wait for a rescue that might never come. Chen Zio looks out the window, knowing the harsh reality. Go north to a supposed paradise that will inevitably become a hell of scarcity and violence, or wait for rescue. Both options seem like an impossible dream to him. He knows the real nightmare is only beginning. Soon, a threat far more terrifying than extreme heat will be unleashed upon the world. The unbearable heat has triggered large-scale genetic mutations. Mutant beasts, adapted to high temperatures, will emerge to devour the remnants of human civilization. Terrifying monsters, like this humanoid reptile, will become the planet's new predators, hunting survivors. And the danger won't come only from beasts. Among humans, individuals with superpowers will appear, the awakened, who will form factions and fight each other to the death over scarce resources. With this bleak future in mind, Chen Zio's determination hardens. His goal is not only to protect his safe house, he has far more ambitious plans. Meanwhile, outside, the anger of his neighbors, whom he just saved, boils out of control. They bitterly complain that it isn't fair for him to enjoy a luxury-filled fortress all by himself. One of them bangs on a door, yelling for Chen Zio to come out. They blame him for their current situation because he refused to help them from the start. The crowd reaches an agreement. They demand that Chen Zio share his shelter. They plan to occupy it and take turns living in it, all in the name of collective survival. But Chen Zio is completely in his own world. While they scream and panic outside, he calmly cooks a steak in his spotless kitchen without the slightest concern. He plates a dish worthy of a luxury restaurant and, with exasperating calm, takes a perfect photo of it. Then he posts the photo in the neighborhood group chat. The reaction is instant and full of hatred. His neighbors, starving and thirsty, can't believe his nerve in flaunting his luxury dinner and air conditioning. And that was exactly his goal. The system notifies a massive harvest of negative emotions, jealousy, anger, and despair. He is getting stronger, feeding on their hatred. Reading the insults on his phone, Chen Zio smiles smugly. To him, the rage of the incompetent is the cheapest and easiest emotion to obtain in this new world. The provocation works. One neighbor snaps, his face twisted with uncontrollable rage. In a burst of powerless fury, he smashes his own phone on the ground and swears he'll find a way to kill Chen Zio. Having harvested enough power, Chen Zio's mind locks onto his next target, the abandoned factory and the valuable antibiotics Liu mentioned. His decision is made. He will go after them. But before launching the mission, he steps out to do a quick reconnaissance. Shielding himself from the extreme heat, he slips out of his fortress to assess the situation outside. Back in the kitchen, with a sharp, decisive chop of the knife on the cutting board, Chen Zio finishes his prep. The time for planning is over. Now, the hunt begins. Chen Zio remains completely calm, even as the situation grows more and more tense. The sweat on his face is not from fear, but from the unbearable heat outside. Suddenly, a knife flies toward him. Chen Zio dodges with a minimal movement, letting the weapon embed itself in the door right behind him. He doesn't even flinch. The culprits appear. There are 3 thugs, and their leader, a bald man, throws a direct threat. If Chen Zio doesn't hand over the house, they'll cripple him. But Chen Zio shows not the slightest fear. On the contrary, he walks up to the bald man, staring straight into his eyes as if the threat were a joke. The thug tries to attack, but Chen Zio stops his wrist with unbelievable ease. His strength is overwhelming. With a simple twist, he breaks the man's arm. The bald man's scream of pain echoes through the air as his confidence turns into pure terror. Without giving him a chance to recover, Chen Zio flings him through the air as if he weighed nothing. As the knife drops, Chen Zio catches it midair with total nonchalance, ready for his next move. Another thug, a blonde guy, tries to seize the chance to attack Chen Zio from behind. But it's a grave mistake. Chen Zio's eyes light up with a red glow. His patience has run out. In the blink of an eye, Chen Zio moves at incredible speed, neutralizing all 3 thugs with a series of precise cuts. The fight ends as quickly as it began. Chen Zio remains standing, surrounded by the bodies of his attackers, not a single scratch on him. One of the men lies on the ground, coughing up blood, completely defeated. Terrified, the thug can't believe Chen Zio would dare do something like this in broad daylight. The system confirms it, marking a 1,000-point spike of fear. Trembling on the ground, the man asks if Chen Zio plans to kill him. Chen Zio looks at the 3 men with contempt. He replies that killing them directly would dirty his hands. He has something far worse in mind for them. As he walks away, he coldly explains their fate. In this heat, their wounds will get infected. Sepsis will consume them slowly in just a few days, making them suffer an agonizing death. Having dealt with the problem, Chen Zio heads to his next destination, an abandoned industrial zone. At last he arrives, a factory in the Western District. But just as he nears the entrance, his eyes pick up a problem, an active security camera. He can't risk having his visit recorded. Chen Zio can't afford to leave witnesses, not even electronic ones. With a quick flick of his hand, he throws an invisible energy blade. The energy blade slices through the air and shatters the camera into 1,000 pieces. Now no one is watching. With the camera disabled, he uses his power again to slice through the factory door lock, forcing entry without effort. He pushes the heavy door and steps into the warehouse darkness, but the instant he enters, he notices a strange smell. The odor is sharp, chemical. It burns his nose and throat. Something is wrong. He starts coughing violently, realizing too late what's happening. Poison gas. Damn it, it's a trap. His strength begins to fail and his knees buckle. As he falls, his vision blurs, but he manages to make out 2 silhouettes approaching from the back of the warehouse. At last, he collapses to the floor, completely at the mercy of his mysterious attacker. One of the figures, wearing a gas mask, kneels beside him and injects a substance into his arm. Chen Zio's eyes snap open. Whatever they injected is working, but why would they help him? The gas-masked man asks if he feels better, explaining that the nerve gas isn't lethal, but it is very unpleasant. Now recovered, Chen Zio stands up and demands to know who they are. He suspects Liu Heifeng might have betrayed him, but these people don't seem like ordinary thugs. Female voice introduces the man as Lin Guodong, a biomedical researcher. On the tray, Chen Zio sees several syringes prepared. The man removes his mask, revealing a middle-aged intellectual. He introduces himself as Lin Guodong, the person in charge here, and says his field of study is human evolution in extreme environments. Then he introduces his student, Su Rui. Su Rui, a pink-haired woman carrying a briefcase, greets him politely. Her appearance and behavior don't fit the apocalypse at all. Professor Lin downplays the gas, calling it a simple anti-theft measure. However, his true intention surfaces when he says he is more interested in the unique tool Chen Zio used to cut open the door. Chen Zio thanks him for saving him, but his mind races. A biomedical researcher. This is far more complicated than he expected. Professor Lin shows him the inside of the factory, where huge refrigerators are filled with medicine and supplies. But looking closer, Chen Zio realizes this place is much more than a simple pharmaceutical warehouse. In the center of the hall stands the complete skeleton of a T-Rex. Something very strange is definitely happening. Chen Zio wonders if this site is really only a medicine warehouse. The scale of the operation and the bizarre decoration make him doubt it. Professor Lin leads him to the refrigerators, kindly telling him he can take all the medicine he needs. He offers it as an apology for the security measures and as a welcome gift. But Chen Zio doesn't trust him. His gaze is pure suspicion. Despite his suspicions, he won't refuse such a good offer. While the professor and Su Rui watch, Chen Zio walks to the refrigerator. He opens his backpack and starts filling it with all kinds of medicines. Antibiotics, painkillers, anti-inflammatories, everything that could be useful in this new world. With his backpack full, he turns to the professor and thanks him, though his tone is cold and distant. He's ready to leave. Chen Zio heads toward the exit, leaving the enigmatic professor behind. But just as he goes, Professor Lin whispers with a sinister smile, "Until we meet again." Clearly, this isn't over. Back at his building, the setting sun dyes the sky orange, one calm moment before the next storm. Chen Zio reaches the door of his shelter, the only safe place in this hell. Once inside, he leans against the door and lets out a sigh of relief. Even though Professor Lin saved him and didn't harm him, something about him unsettles Chen Zio. He can't get the way the man looked at him out of his head. That smile, that calculating gaze, it gave him a very bad feeling. His phone vibrates. It's a message in the owner's group chat. Someone is desperately asking for antibiotics and medicine to stop bleeding, offering to pay a high price. It's the thugs he attacked. Chen Zio smiles maliciously. He replies to the group saying he just got a few boxes and the effect should be good, but adds that they are not for sale. His reply ignites the fury of the thugs and their allies in the chat. They insult him, call him a selfish villain, and swear revenge as soon as they recover. The system logs their anger, hatred, and jealousy. Ignoring the threats, Chen Zio sits down and begins organizing the medicines he got from the factory. But as he does, something in his backpack catches his attention. His gaze sharpens. His instincts tell him something is off. He checks the backpack's contents more carefully. And then he sees it. Among the boxes of medicine, there is a small, strange object he didn't put in there. No doubt about it, it's a tracker. Professor Lin wasn't being kind. He was only playing with his prey. While checking his things, Chen Zio finds something unexpected, a tiny tracker. His mind races, wondering who could have put it in his bag, and most importantly when. But instead of feeling fear, a twisted idea crosses his mind. If they want to play a tracking game, he's more than willing to join in. With a confident smile, he decides to go along with his mysterious stalker. He's going to turn their game against them. Just then, as if fate sent it to him, a stray white cat appears in a nearby alley. Chen Zio sees his chance. He sneaks closer and asks the feline for a small favor as he attaches the tracker to its back. He tells the cat to simply go to the places it usually frequents. The animal, confused, meows, not understanding it has become a key pawn. The cat strolls off, carrying the device and kicking off Chen Zio's plan to confuse his pursuer. Elsewhere in an office, the tracker's signal appears on a laptop, drawing a chaotic web of red lines across the city map. The man monitoring the screen, Professor Lin Guodong, frowns. He is completely baffled by the target's erratic movement pattern. Meanwhile, Chen Zio's attention shifts to the neighbor's group chat. A man named Wang Wei posts a desperate message, begging for medicine for his dying brother. Soon after, another message appears. A woman with her child begs for water, saying she's willing to trade anything for a little help. Chen Zio stares at the screen with cold eyes. He remembers this trick perfectly from his past life. He knows the woman is only trying to manipulate others for personal gain. Suddenly, someone in the chat attacks him directly, calling him selfish and heartless for hoarding supplies. Chen Zio doesn't care. He thinks it's ridiculous that they're trying to make him feel responsible. Calmly seated on his sofa, he watches the drama unfold on his phone, completely unmoved by the accusations and the chaos outside. He knows hypocrisy and moral blackmail have no power over him. Instead, he prepares his next move, reviewing the evidence he has collected. Finally, Chen Zio responds, but instead of defending himself, he targets Wang Wei and exposes him, telling him to share the 3 cases of water and the 2 cases of canned food he has hidden. The woman who begged for water goes pale when she reads the message. Her face fills with panic as she realizes the terrible truth. Chen Zio has hallway cameras. She can't believe it. She had been so careful not to be seen, yet she was still caught on camera. Her plan has collapsed. The revelation sparks an uproar in the chat. The neighbor's anger immediately shifts toward Wang Wei, screaming demands that he share the supplies he's been hiding. The mob doesn't take long to act. A group of furious men, armed with bats and hammers, crowds in front of Wang Wei's apartment door, ready to take what they now consider theirs by force. The neighbor's fury erupts in an instant. An axe slams into Wang Wei's apartment door, splintering the wood with terrifying violence. Inside, Wang Wei's couple watches in pure terror. Through the broken peephole, they see the enraged mob preparing to break in. One neighbor's face contorts with rage as he shouts, demanding they hand over all the food and drink they've been hoarding. The threat echoes down the hallway, warning them not to force their hand. The thin veneer of civilization has completely vanished. The door gives way and the mob floods in. In the chaos, a woman is cornered, her face full of panic as the looters shove her aside. What follows is a frenzied raid. The neighbors, transformed into a savage horde, pounce on the boxes of supplies, grabbing everything they can carry. In the height of hypocrisy, even the woman who earlier begged for water for her child joins the looting, stuffing her backpack with goods stolen from Wang Wei. After the storm passes, Wang Wei's wife lies on the floor of their now empty apartment, her body covered in bruises, her eyes blank. Silent tears run down her battered face. She has lost everything, a victim of the brutal justice her own neighbors decided to deliver. The tragedy deepens further. On the stairs, Wang Wei's brother, the one he begged medicine for, has died. Heartbroken, Wang Wei can only whisper, "Rest in peace." Fear grips the neighbors again. Now they worry the body will rot and spark an epidemic. Wang Wei, desperate, yells if anyone even cares whether they live or die. At that moment of peak despair, a calm figure comes down the stairs. It's Professor Lin Guodong, telling everyone not to panic, accompanied by his assistant. Turning his back to the crowd, Lin introduces himself formally. He announces they are a medical team from the city's CDC and have come to help. He puts on white gloves and, in a compassionate tone, apologizes for arriving late, blaming blocked roads for the delay. Lin approaches the body and examines the victim's reddened eye. He warns seriously that in extreme heat, corpses must be handled immediately by professionals. He kneels and explains that if they don't act quickly, an epidemic could break out, with terrible consequences for every survivor in the building. Following his orders, his team begins distributing disinfectants and medicine. The residents, on the verge of tears, thank them, calling them their savior. A wave of relief and hope sweeps through the crowd. They believe the government hasn't abandoned them. Lin watches, his deception working perfectly. But Lin's generosity is a facade. His real mission is in his mind. The tracker's signal went chaotic here. With chilling certainty, he knows his target, Chen Zio, is very close. And he's not the only one who knows. Just a few floors away, Chen Zio watches the same scene from his window. While the neighbors cheer their new savior, Chen Zio sees him for what he really is, the demon who hunted him in his past life. The recognition is instant and chilling. Chen Zio sees Professor Lin amid the crowd and wonders why, of all people, his past life enemy is here. The only logical conclusion hits him like lightning. The tracker, Lin's arrival. It all fits. Is he tracking me? He wonders, his jaw tightening. Just then, a sudden vibration in his pocket snaps him out of his thoughts. It's his phone. He pulls it out and sees a text message from an unknown number. The warning is short, but it chills his blood. Watch out for that doctor. Chen Zio is stunned. Someone else knows Lin's true nature. But who sent this message? He remains by the window, watching the crowd below, the phone with the cryptic warning still in his hand. His own tense face, with those unmistakable red eyes, reflects in the phone's dark screen. His mind races, trying to understand this new piece on the board. The scene shifts to a distant rooftop. The lens of a powerful telescope points directly at Chen Zio's apartment building. Behind the telescope, a figure dressed entirely in black, the unknown observer, has been watching every move. He is the one who sent the warning, a new and mysterious player in this deadly game. Back in his apartment, Chen Zio lowers his head. The brim of his cap shadows his face as he processes the dangerous implication of the text message. His eyes narrow with chilling understanding. His situation is far more complicated than he thought. He's no longer facing only Lin. The question now haunting him is someone else watching me too? Chen Zio tries to call back the unknown number that sent the warning, but he only gets an automated message. The number is virtual and impossible to trace. Leaning against the window, he thinks it over. Whoever sent that message is deliberately hiding their identity, which makes it even more suspicious. His mind keeps spinning. Was it a genuine warning from someone who knows how dangerous Professor Lin is, or a trap meant to make Chen Zio deal with the professor for them? Meanwhile, down on the street, residents thank Professor Lin for handling the bodies and preventing possible disease. From his balcony, Chen Zio watches in silence, trusting none of it. With a kind smile, Lin presents himself as a savior, telling everyone he's only doing his duty and that they should come to him if they feel unwell. Pure acting. But Chen Zio's gaze hardens. He knows something far darker hides behind that mask of kindness. Suddenly, his eyes catch a detail. There's a stain on the professor's clothing that looks like blood. Though on closer look, it could also be some kind of dried chemical reagent. The uncertainty only increases the tension. The sight triggers a chilling memory from Chen Zio's past life. Medical teams would appear under the pretense of preventing epidemics, but soon after, the strongest and healthiest people in the area would begin disappearing mysteriously. The calculating smile on Lin's face confirms everything. Chen Zio knows he's looking at the same kind of lab coat demon he encountered in his previous life. Later, Professor Lin posts an announcement on the community bulletin board, setting his plan in motion. The residents read it with gratitude. The professor will offer free medical checkups, wound treatment, and even water, all in the underground parking garage. To them, he's a hero. To Chen Zio, it's a death trap. Meanwhile, in a lonely alley, a white cat approaches a can of food Chen Zio strategically left behind. Suddenly, Professor Lin appears. He had been following the tracker signal Chen Zio found, and now he realizes he's been fooled. The signal wasn't from a person, but from the cat. Far from being angry, Lin seems amused by the trick. He crouches and pets the cat, showing an unsettling calm. But at that moment, something in his pocket vibrates, alerting him. His expression changes completely. The hunter has just realized he is the prey. From his shelter, Chen Zio's system records the professor's surprise and frustration. Lin looks up, frantically searching for whoever is watching him, but Chen Zio remains perfectly hidden in the distance. From his hiding place, Chen Zio smiles smugly. His suspicions are confirmed. The man is exactly the demon he remembered from his past life. With Lin's plan underway, people begin gathering in the underground parking garage. They walk like sheep to the slaughter, seeking relief from the heat, unaware they're heading into a horrific experiment. Inside the parking garage, people fan themselves and complain about the unbearable heat, not realizing they've voluntarily stepped into the wolf's mouth. Professor Lin, along with his assistant, begins the fake checkup. Looking professional, they ask a man for his name, age, and whether he's had any recent physical discomfort. An elderly man, Chenda, answers that he's 76 and suffers from high blood pressure, falling right into the farce. Blended into the crowd, Chen Zio, hidden under a hood, watches every move, waiting for the professor's true nature to reveal itself. A woman, somewhat suspicious, asks why they need to draw blood for a simple heat-related checkup. Lin reassures her, saying it's just a routine test. But the test tube labeled GHT017 reveals he is collecting samples for his own purposes. Chen Zio's gaze sharpens. He knows this goes beyond a simple blood draw. He wonders what Lin's real plan is. Suddenly, a man calls out to the professor in desperation. The camera pulls back to show that Lin has already collected dozens of vials of blood. A group of thugs bursts in. Their leader, Jiang Chen, begs the professor to save his companion, Abu, who is badly wounded and infected. Professor Lin takes out a small vial. The label reads Prototype T7. He has found his perfect guinea pig. He shows the vial to Jiang Chen, describing it as a new broad-spectrum enhancer that can accelerate healing and resist infection, a carefully crafted lie. Without hesitation, the blue liquid of Prototype T7 is injected straight into Abu's arm. With terrifying coldness, Lin tells him to rest a few days and he'll recover soon, knowing perfectly well what is about to happen. The naive Abu, unaware he has been sentenced, thanks the professor for his help. For a moment, everything goes silent. Abu's eyes widen strangely as cold sweat runs down his forehead. The enhancer is taking effect. Both Chen Zio and Professor Lin watch with maximum attention. Chen Zio wonders what exactly the professor is expecting to see. As the thugs start to leave, their leader asks Abu if he's okay. In the background, Chen Zio continues watching, motionless. Suddenly, Abu stops, trembling. He tells his boss he feels like his bones are burning, an unbearable pain consuming him from the inside. A choked scream escapes his lips. His veins swell and turn black, and his fingers warp as the transformation begins. His eyes flood with blood. Ah-Boo's humanity vanishes completely, replaced by primal fury and terrifying power. A deafening roar rips through the air as the transformation completes, releasing a shockwave that pushes back those nearby. His boss, Jiang Chen, stares in horror, unable to believe what he's seeing. He asks what's happening to him, but the man he knew no longer exists. In a blink, the creature Ah-Boo has become lunges at his former boss and grabs him by the throat. Jiang Chen desperately tries to bring him to his senses, reminding him he's the boss, but logic has no place anymore. But the serum didn't only give him strength, it also unleashed all his resentment. Ah-Boo spits in his boss's face about how he used him as a human shield in the past. With superhuman force, he hurls Jiang Chen through the air like a rag doll, taking his revenge. But his fury isn't done. The monster senses another presence in the shadows and roars, searching for a new target. Chen Zio steps out of hiding, revealing himself. The monster recognizes him instantly. Without thinking and completely out of control, the creature charges straight at Chen Zio, ready to destroy anything in its path. But Chen Zio, perfectly calm, dodges the wild attack with a simple tilt of his head. As he evades, his mind coldly analyzes the enemy. Its strength has tripled, but its movements are clumsy and predictable, pure brute force with no technique. This confirms his suspicions. It's not a normal drug, it's forced mutation. The professor's experiment is a success and a failure at the same time. With a quick motion, Chen Zio uses his shadow manipulation ability to trip the monster, sending it crashing down. Chen Zio's eyes blaze an intense red. He's seen enough. It's time to end this. With a flick of his hand, a shadow sharp as a knife slides through the air, heading straight for the mutant's throat. His face shows no emotion at all. He's a hunter eliminating a dangerous prey, nothing more. The monster stays still for a second. A thin dark line appears on its neck. The strike was so fast it was barely seen. Finally, the creature collapses to the ground, lifeless. Chen Zio stands over the body. The battle is over. Silence returns to the alley, broken only by crows cawing in the distance. The sun sets on the horizon, tinting the scene a blood-red color. The silence breaks with the sound of firm, elegant footsteps. Someone is approaching the crime scene. Far away, the thug's superiors realize the positioning signal of the nano-tracker they injected into one of their men has suddenly stopped. Professor Lin Guodong arrives at the alley. He stops, his spotless shoes only inches from the spilled blood. His face, normally calm and calculating, twists into a look of surprise. This wasn't what he expected. Before him lies Ah-Boo's lifeless body, his failed experiment, and a few meters away, the thug's boss, Jiang Chen, unconscious and badly injured. Without wasting time, Lin pulls out his tablet and starts scanning Ah-Boo's corpse, collecting mutation data. The results are clear. Prototype T7 caused overstimulation that led to nervous collapse, but that wasn't the cause of death. Examining the neck, he finds the true cause, a clean, precise cut, far too perfect for a street fight. The wound feels familiar. His mind flashes to another body he saw earlier, Liu Heifeng, who also died from a similar cut. The professor connects the dots. The fatal wound on Liu Heifeng's body, the cuts on that door lock that day, and now this. They're all identical, clean and smooth. Making a cut like that without tools or weapons isn't something an ordinary person can do. His interest spikes. An image of Chen Zio appears in his mind. He knew he was unusual from the day he saw him. His instincts didn't fail. A sinister smile spreads across his face. Maybe he really does have what I'm looking for. He has found a far more valuable specimen. Just then, Jiang Chen coughs violently and regains consciousness. Quickly, Lin puts the benevolent doctor mask back on. He steps in and warns him not to move. He might have a pulmonary hemorrhage. He asks what happened, pretending concern. Still dazed, Jiang Chen can only ask about his friend, Ah-Boo, unable to understand the massacre that just occurred. Lin, wearing a look of fake sorrow, shows him a photo of Chen Zio on his tablet. He lies, saying what happened to his friend must be connected to him. He keeps manipulating him, saying only by finding Chen Zio can they clarify the truth and prevent more people from getting hurt. Full of rage and thirst for revenge, Jiang Chen bites the hook. He says he knows Chen Zio and can lead Lin to his house. Professor Lin smiles inwardly. He tells him not to worry and to leave everything in his hands, promising treatment in his laboratory. Another test subject has fallen into the trap. Completely fooled, the thug leader thanks the professor profusely, believing Lin will truly help him. He doesn't know he's walking to his own grave. The corridor of Lin's lab is cold, metallic, and sterile, a place where ethics and humanity do not exist. As he's pushed in a wheelchair, the thug, still confused, asks the professor how it's possible Ah-Boo transformed like that if he was fine right after the injection. He remembers the exact moment right after the injection, and the image of his friend turned monster haunts him. Lin, his face shadowed, lies shamelessly. He says it was an extremely rare, severe rejection reaction, and that to make sure it doesn't happen to him, they'll do a full checkup. They stop in front of a reinforced metal door. Hearing rejection reaction, the thug starts to feel a chill. Panic finally takes him. He begs the professor to let him go home, to just give him some antibiotics. He understands now, but it's too late. But his pleas are useless. Professor Lin swipes his access card, opening the door to a nightmare. The mask of kindness drops completely. In an icy voice, Lin orders him to be quiet, for science, and for your own sake. The thug tries to resist, a last desperate "no, don't do it," as they shove him into the darkness. His eyes widen in pure terror, as a ripping scream tears from his throat. The heavy isolation room door closes, swallowing his screams. Another test subject has been secured. Back in the safety of his bunker, Chen Zio relaxes on the sofa, completely unaware that the hunter already knows his location. He keeps thinking about Professor Lin, trying to figure out Lin's true goal and why he's doing all this. Suddenly, an unexpected sound puts him on alert. A light blinks on his shelter's control panel. It's an incoming call. Someone has managed to hack his security system. On the screen, Professor Lin's smiling face greets him. "Is this Chen Zio? I'm Professor Lin. Can we have a chat?" The enemy has arrived at his door. Late at night, an unexpected figure appears at Chen Zio's door. It's Professor Lin, who, with a smile, confirms he has found the right place. Before entering, the professor looks up at the sky, remarking to himself about the intense heat and how the clouds completely hide the star. The door opens, revealing total darkness inside, as Chen Zio prepares to receive his nocturnal visitor. Chen Zio appears, arms crossed and calm-eyed, asking Professor Lin what brings him to his home at such a late hour. Now inside, the professor simply replies that he heard Chen lived here and decided to drop by. The tension between them is palpable. Chen Zio isn't surprised. He knew this moment would come, though he admits to himself it was faster than he expected. Since the professor came on his own, he decides it's time to face him. Professor Lin, with a subtle smile, remarks that he didn't expect them to meet again so soon, making it clear this visit is no mere coincidence. Once seated, the professor wastes no time and begins his analysis, noting that Chen Zio's house is quite special. Lin details his observations: double-layered glass, an independent water circulation system. He concludes it's not an ordinary home, but an apocalyptic shelter. With a penetrating gaze, the professor asks his real question, wanting to know whether Chen Zio knew in advance that the extreme heatwave was coming. Chen Zio smiles, dodging the question with an absurd excuse. He jokes that he got a renovation package on sale, and the contractor guaranteed it would last 50 years, but he never thought he'd be a prophet. Lin isn't amused by the joke. His expression turns serious, and he tells Chen the real reason for his visit is to ask about something specific. Without beating around the bush, the professor asks Chen whether he knows about the death of his neighbor Abu, and also that of Liu Heifeng, who had caused him trouble before. He goes on to explain that he examined the bodies and found their cervical vertebrae were severed instantly, with surgical precision that even military weapons couldn't achieve. Despite the grave accusation, Chen Zio stays calm, listening with a faint smile on his face, completely unshaken. Feigning innocence, Chen asks if it could be a weapon made by the same person, as if the idea fascinates him. Taking the act to the extreme, he enthusiastically asks the professor that if he figures out what weapon it is, to recommend it to him. Professor Lin, playing along, asks with a mocking smile what he would use it for. With the most carefree grin, Chen replies that of course he'd use it to cut steaks. He explains that refrigerators are unstable in the heat, meat gets tough, so he needs a good knife. The answer is so absurd that the brilliant professor is left speechless. A system indicator confirms Chen's audacity has earned him points. But Professor Lin ignores the joke and returns to seriousness. He states that no matter how you look at it, both deaths were caused by a single person, someone with professional technique and definitely not ordinary. Chen Zio replies coldly, suggesting maybe those people were just unlucky and messed with something they shouldn't have. With a subtle smile, the professor counters, reminding Chen that, coincidentally, both victims had direct conflicts with him. The conversation pauses for a moment. Tension fills the room as the two men measure each other in silence, each waiting for the other's next move. Chen returns to his sarcastic facade, saying the professor sure knows how to joke and that he's just an ordinary person. But then, with a defiant look, he points at the medical kit Lin brought and asks, "You don't think I'm about to die too, do you?" The white medical kit, with its red cross, rests on the table like a silent omen. Chen presses on, changing the subject. He asks the professor how he found his address, since Chen never gave it to him. In response, the professor takes out his phone and reveals that someone Chen knows is the one who gave him the information. For the first time in the conversation, Chen's expression changes. A drop of cold sweat runs down his face as he realizes the implication. On the phone screen is an image of Jiang Chen, badly injured and hooked up to a ventilator. Professor Lin calmly claims he is saving him. Chen asks about Jiang's condition, but his thoughts are dark. He knows Jiang has a strong will, but falling into the hands of this old fox is a fate worse than death. Lin reveals his true intentions with a smile. He explains Jiang is adapting to a new therapy, and that, in this high-temperature environment, the human body is destined to evolve. Jiang is just doing it a little faster. Horror grips Chen as he understands the truth. The professor is conducting human experiments. He drops the sarcasm and demands to know the real purpose of this visit. Meanwhile, in the laboratory, Jiang Qiang's hand trembles violently, veins standing out on his skin. His eyes snap open, revealing an unnatural, empty gleam, a sign of the transformation he is undergoing. Suddenly, Jiang arches and screams in pain. His body swells, muscles expanding, and a system alert indicates his vital signs are fluctuating violently, with a genetic mutation rate of 37%. Back in the living room, Professor Lin slides a syringe filled with blue liquid across the table. He presents it as an immune booster he developed himself, supposedly with no side effects. Chen can't resist and goes back to mocking. He compares the liquid to cranberry soda and asks if he needs to shake it before drinking, leaving the professor speechless once again and earning more system points. But then Chen picks up the syringe, and his tone turns serious. He admits he knows he isn't an ordinary person and predicts that, although the survival rate will be under 10%, some people will inevitably evolve. With the syringe in hand, he looks Lin straight in the eye and voices the terrible proposal being made to him. You want me to evolve using the same method you used on Jiang Qiang. Professor Lin adjusts his glasses, justifying his actions as a necessary price for scientific progress. He proposes that Chen cooperate with him to find a method of adaptation for humanity. But Chen Zio, with a defiant smile, rejects the offer with a simple question, and if I say no? Lin, without losing composure, warns Chen about the grim future ahead, diseases, mutant creatures, and relentless heat. He assures him cooperating is the only way to live longer. Before leaving, the professor leaves the syringe on the table. With a superior smile, he tells Chen the doors of his lab will always be open if he decides to reconsider. As he walks away, Lin's true thoughts come to light. He acknowledges Chen's mental strength, but his conclusion is chilling. Live samples are more valuable than genetic data, and Chen Zio won't be able to escape. The syringe remains as a reminder of the dangerous offer. Chen reflects on the professor's twisted nature, justifying experiments on living people with grandiose words. Staring at the syringe, Chen reaches an inevitable conclusion. He knows that if he doesn't get rid of that man, he'll never have peace again. An icy determination settles on his face. With a grim smile, he decides to accept the challenge in his own way. Since you want to study evolution, I'll show you what true evolution is. The scene cuts abruptly. In the lab, a fully transformed, massively muscled Jiang Qiang roars, eyes blazing with inhuman fury. From his control room, Professor Lin watches as the monitor confirms the mutation is complete. Jiang's vitals are stable, but his sanity signal has dropped to zero. A satisfied smile appears on Lin's face. His experiment has succeeded. Hatred, fear, and pain have proven to be the perfect catalyst. With a voice dripping malice, he gives his creation its first order. Jiang Qiang, you've been reborn. Now bring me Chen Zio. I want him alive. Beside him, his assistant, Su Rui, watches in horror. She asks whether turning living people into monsters is really the path of human evolution he always talks about. The professor turns to her, asking what she feels participating in her first experiment. Then, coldly, he orders her to activate it. Su Rui protests, horrified. She reminds him that what they're doing is human experimentation, and they've crossed every ethical line. Lin scoffs at her naivety. He tells her that in the apocalypse, morality is a luxury, and Jiang's sacrifice will be exchanged for the possibility that more people survive. With a twisted smile, he presses a red button on the console and gives the final order. Jiang Qiang, move out now. The beast responds. Jiang Qiang's body, covered in bulging veins, tenses as it roars, ready to unleash its fury. Through the communicator, Lin repeats his desire with a smile of pure evil. Bring me Chen Zio. I want him alive. With a metallic crash, the creature that was once Jiang Qiang smashes through a heavy steel door and launches into the hunt. Under the full moon, a ruined building stands out among the skyscrapers. It is Chen Zio's shelter, a place that will soon become the stage for a clash. On a nearby rooftop, Jiang Qiang's silhouette leaps agilely between buildings, moving with superhuman speed and strength straight toward his target. The creature reaches the corridor in front of Chen Zio's door, but finds no one. Its back, now a mass of unnatural muscle, tightens. A low growl escapes its lips. Its senses, now sharpened, tell it the prey is not far. It sniffs the air, searching for a trail. Suddenly, it turns its head. It has detected something, a presence it knows very well, one that ignites its hatred. Down below in the darkness, Chen Zio waits, casually leaning against a tree. Pretending surprise, he greets him, commenting on how much his appearance has changed. The provocation begins. With a mocking smile, Chen asks whether he should keep calling him Jiang Qiang or switch to Wangkai, a common name for dogs. The taunt hits its mark. Zhang's rage explodes, and a system indicator shows Chen has gained 1,000 points of anger. Stuttering with fury, the beast can only spit out a threat. Chen, Zio, die. Chen smiles to himself, noticing his enemy's emotions are even stronger after the transformation, boosting the efficiency of his harvest by more than 30%. He finds it interesting. Chen backs away, inviting it to follow him to a more open area. He explains he doesn't want to fight at his door to avoid bothering the neighbors, and more importantly, because if anything breaks in his shelter, Zhang couldn't pay for the damage. The chase leads them to an underground parking garage. Zhang lands on all fours, moving like a wild animal, ready to attack. Chen prepares for combat. With a quick sweep of his arm, he warns that it's going to feel his spatial cut. The invisible strike hits Zhang's chest. However, to Chen's surprise, the cut doesn't penetrate. Zhang's mutated skin is so thick it leaves him unharmed. Chen watches with a mix of surprise and analysis. Zhang's skin has become much thicker than he expected, an unexpected defense. Teeth clenched and eyes full of hatred, Zhang growls his enemy's name, preparing to counterattack. The beast lunges forward, but Chen, with superior agility, dodges effortlessly. As he runs, Chen continues provoking, reminding Zhang he used to be all muscles and no brain, and now he can't even speak clearly. The tactic works, and he gains another 1,200 points of anger. Closing in on the enraged creature, Chen mocks its appearance, clicking his tongue and saying it looks really ugly. Then, sarcastically, he adds that Professor Lin has terrible taste and offers to introduce him to a good stylist. The humiliation is too much for Zhang's fractured mind. A new torrent of rage floods him, and Chen harvests an incredible 2,000 points. The creature's body begins trembling and swelling even further. Seeing the strange reaction, Chen's smile fades. He realizes something is wrong. Zhang's reaction to anger is far more intense than it should be. Chen Zio realizes he made a mistake. Something behind him moves at incredible speed, and he has no time to react. Danger is imminent. Chen can barely track the movement with his eyes, realizing he has seriously underestimated his opponent's new speed. In an instant, sharp bone spikes burst from Zhang's body, piercing Chen's hoodie and slicing his skin. Rage has triggered a new, deadly mutation. Chen clutches his side, blood seeping between his fingers. For the first time, he has been injured. He curses under his breath as he realizes his opponent can now generate bone spikes. From the safety of his lab, Professor Lin watches the scene in scientific ecstasy. He shouts that this is a second-stage mutation and that an emotional surge can catalyze evolution, ordering Su Rui to record all the data. Su Rui, however, is horrified. As she writes down the data, she wonders whether this path of creating monsters is truly a way to save humanity. Back in the parking garage, Chen Zio regains his footing, staring at the beast Zhang has become. Now the fight has become far more serious and far more dangerous. In an abandoned parking garage, Jiang Qiang's body finishes mutating. Bone spikes erupt from his back and his muscles tighten as he roars his opponent's name, Chen Zio. His feet turn into claws that crack the ground. With a hatred-filled stare, only one word comes out of his mouth: die. Jiang Qiang charges forward, becoming a blur of spikes and red fury, straight at Chen Zio. But Chen Zio, totally calm, steps aside and lets the attack rush past without even grazing. The beast glares at him in rage, frustrated that its first strike missed. Even though Chen Zio now has blood on his chest, and in his mouth, his expression shows neither pain nor concern. Everything is going according to plan. A system alert appears for Chen Zio, warning that Jiang Qiang's energy is still rising dangerously. Chen Zio wipes the blood from his lip, thinking to himself that he only needs a little more to reach his goal. So instead of attacking, he starts provoking him, asking if that's all he's got, and whether he thinks he's a hedgehog just because he grew a few extra bones. The taunts work perfectly. A notification confirms he just gained 1,000 points of anger and 1,000 of humiliation. Jiang Qiang grinds his teeth, utterly furious. As the beast roars, Chen Zio smiles maliciously. He reminds him that before, when he was a low-rent thug, at least he dared to fight with a steel pipe. From a distance, he keeps up the verbal assault, asking if he really thinks he's someone important just because of a few injections and some new bone. Jiang Chen screams, overwhelmed by the fury and humiliation Chen Zio's words provoke. Chen Zio delivers the finishing blow, telling him that no matter how much he changes, he's still just a dog that bites whoever that Dr. Lin orders him to. The system records another surge, over 1,700 points of rage. Jiang Qiang roars, completely out of control. Meanwhile, in a control room, Professor Lin Guodong watches it all with a satisfied smile. He tells his assistant the emotional spike has been reached, and that Chen Zio is a benefactor for stimulating his test subject so well. With a sadistic look, the professor encourages his creation through the monitors, telling him to get even angrier so he can see the limits. But his assistant, Su Rui, doesn't look pleased. She watches with concern, wondering what Chen Zio is trying to do. Pushed to the limit of his rage, Jiang Qiang's body ignites with a red aura. He lets out a deafening roar and fires a rain of bone spikes from his body. The sharp spikes shoot through the air like projectiles, flying straight at Chen Zio. But Chen Zio dodges the bone spears effortlessly, moving at incredible speed. With a bored look, he asks, "Is that all?" He stops and glances over his shoulder with a mocking smile, completely unharmed. Then he turns to face him and challenges him directly. "If you've got the guts, try again." The final provocation works. Jiang Qiang's fury explodes, and Chen Zio's system registers a massive gain of 2,800 points. Right then, a critical notification appears. Negative emotions have reached the cap of 30,000. His skill can evolve into spatial rift, annihilation. Without hesitating for a second, Chen Zio confirms the evolution. As Jiang Qiang launches one last desperate attack, Chen Zio simply says, "Right now." In the palm of his hand, a new and terrifying ability forms, a small sphere of absolute darkness, a void that distorts the space around it. This is the power of spatial rift annihilation. Jiang Qiang's bone spikes disintegrate before they can even touch the sphere. The void sphere brushes Jiang Qiang, and the result is instant and brutal. His arm and leg are not cut, they simply cease to exist, erased from reality. Chen Zio watches with absolute coldness. Defeated and mutilated, Jiang Qiang lies on the ground, staring in horror at where his limbs used to be. "My hand, he mutters in shock. Chen Zio looks down at him with complete indifference, as if he just crushed an insect. He approaches the dying Jiang Qiang and rips the collar from his neck, the device linking him to his creator. Speaking directly to the collar camera, Chen Zio sends a message to the man watching. He tells Professor Lin that his test subject isn't very good, and that next time he should send someone who actually knows how to fight. In his laboratory, Professor Lin grits his teeth in fury as the transmission cuts out. He mutters the name of his new, most hated enemy, Chen Zio. But his anger quickly twists into a warped, sinister smile. The professor bursts into manic laughter. He admits Chen Zio is different from the rest and swears that sooner or later he will capture him. Back in the parking garage, Jiang Qiang's body begins to disintegrate. Chen Zio steps closer to deliver the finishing blow. He places a hand on Jiang Qiang's head and says that, seeing how pathetic he is, he'll help end his suffering. With an icy look and the words, "You're welcome," he ends Jiang Qiang's life. Silence returns to the parking garage. Chen Zio turns to leave, and the sound of footsteps begins echoing in the darkness. But the footsteps aren't Chen Zio. They are the steps of spotless dress shoes, sharply out of place in the filth. An elegant voice breaks the silence, accompanied by slow applause. "Splendid, truly splendid." Chen Zio turns, instantly alert, and asks coldly, "Who's there?" His eyes lock onto the direction of the voice, ready for another fight. Out of the shadows emerges a man who steps without hesitation into the pool of blood Jiang Qiang left behind. It is a man in a suit, white gloves and glasses, who wipes his nose with a silk handkerchief. He introduces himself as Chen Shixing and remarks with disdain that the smell of death is always so primitive. Despite his apparent disgust, he congratulates Chen Zio on the brilliant battle he just witnessed, saying that this desperate era will also be an era in which gods rise. Chen Zio watches him with suspicion, never lowering his guard for a second. As the man speaks, Chen Zio discreetly gathers his power, ready to strike at the slightest provocation. Shixing continues, saying that with such precision and destructive power, Chen Zio cannot be a mere, half-finished product created by the madman Lin Guodong. Hearing that name puts Chen Zio on maximum alert. He asks directly whether Shixing knows Lin Guodong and whether he's his accomplice. Shixing smiles and denies it. In fact, he claims to be the opposite. He's here to prevent the professor from creating more tragedies. and as proof, he reveals that he was the one who sent the anonymous message warning Chen Zio to stay away from Lin. The revelation surprises Chen Zio, who doesn't understand how this stranger got his phone number. The man pulls out a black business card. He introduces himself again as Chen Shixing from the ARC Group and explains that his organization has its own intelligence network. He has come to invite Chen Zio to join them and obtain true evolution. Chen Zio processes the information in silence, remembering that in this new life, the awakened have appeared far earlier than expected. Shixing explains that ARC's method of evolution is superior to Lin Guodong because it allows comprehensive improvement while preserving rationality and appearance, without grotesque mutation. Still distrustful, Chen Zio asks what exactly that organization, ARC, is. Shixing describes ARC as an organization searching for the awakened. They believe the world is about to undergo a great change, and only true elites like Chen Zio will be able to board the ARC of the new era. The offer is tempting. He promises Chen Zio power, control, and transcendence, the real path to becoming a god, something Lin Guodong could never give him. But Chen Zio hears the grand promise and can think only one thing. He mutters with disdain, "A path to becoming a god. You sound more like a con artist." Chen Shixing freezes as a cotton swab flies over and smacks the card he's holding. Thrown with incredible force, the swab pierces the card and splits it in two right in front of his eye. Shixing stares in shock. Chen Zio, meanwhile, smiles and says sarcastically, "Sorry, my hand slipped." Then he turns his back and rejects the offer outright. He declares he hates other people arranging his life, whether it's a madman like Lin Guodong or a hypocritical elitist like him. Chen Zio will walk only his own path. With a determined look, he adds that he's used to being alone and doesn't need anyone to teach him how to live, least of all to join his ridiculous ARC group. The man in the suit doesn't look offended, but rather intrigued. He tells Chen Zio he has guts. With a strange smile, Shixing admits he likes him more and more. As Chen Zio walks away, Shixing throws out a warning. In a world on the verge of collapse, growing wildly might keep him alive for a while, but not for long. Chen Zio replies that he doesn't need him worrying about. In the blink of an eye, Chen Zio's body dissolves into a spatial distortion, vanishing completely. Shixing finishes his sentence into empty air, reminding him that when he realizes one person's power has limits, ARC's door will always be open. Chen Zio's sudden display of power leaves Shixing unsettled. The system records his emotions, disdain, surprise, apprehension, and he is left speechless. Chen Zio reappears a few meters away. He thinks it's interesting, because even though Shixing seems emotionally stable, he still contributed a decent amount of negative emotion. His eyes shine with determination. Hearing the word limit, a new goal forms in his mind. If a limit exists, he will break. But before he sets off on that new mission, there's unfinished business he must settle. His gaze hardens as he thinks of the professor. With a cold, determined expression, Chen Zio declares it's time to put an end to his conflict with Lin Guodong.